I have on my screen here a guy named John Cooper. He's apparently the lead singer of a band called Skillet. Now, Skillet is apparently a pretty popular band. I had no idea. But it's like a kind of a metal band or whatever, and they went mainstream, straight up. They're mainstream, but they're a Christian band, like giga, ultra, nutter butter of epic proportions level Christian. So he appears, John Cooper, the lead singer, he appears on this pro-Trump TV show. Yeah, I have a cat in my lap here. I don't know. You may be able to see the bottom of her. Anyway, or the top of her. Anyways, they appeared on this pro-Trump extremist TV show where they commonly have, like, what do you call it? Like televangelists, prophets of God and stuff like that on to lay down prophecy. So I wanted to listen to what they had to say. I think that they're going to talk about like Israel and Palestine and some other subjects. So I'm going to just jump to the introductions. Oh, yeah. Dinesh D'Souza is on here also, and Lance Walnut. These people are insane. Anyway, let's give it a listen. While we listen to this, we are going to play some Final Fantasy VII Remake. I haven't made it all the way through the game. I've just kind of been moseying my way through it or whatever. It's just something to do while we listen to this. And this is a part I have not actually played. Hopefully I don't get a copyright strike for it, and I don't completely mess up because I'm not paying close enough attention. Anyway, all right, let's give it a listen, shall we?
Our good friend Lance Walnow. There he is.
Thought it was Walnaw, not Walnow. I love how he pronounces it, though.
Hello, Lance. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you, sir, on the road. Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh D'Souza, who's got a new film out that everybody needs to go see. And our friend John Cooper, lead singer for multi-platinum band Skillet, author now, and a podcast host.
Seriously, I understand the dude's very influential, well-known, and, mainstream.
And he learned everything from me that he needed to know about how to do all of those things. See, he's nodding.
Yep.
He's not.
Hilarious. Nobody is laughing at this, Gene. God, it's actually painful when somebody tells a joke that, like, nobody laughs at. I feel so bad for him, you know?
Everything from me that he needed to know about how to do all of those things. See, he's nodding.
Yep.
He's nodding. Yep. Okay. That's the only time
So painful.
That's
John
right.
will agree with me all night tonight. All right. So listen, all of you know you can't depend on the mainstream media to bring you all of what's happening. It's either misinformation or disinformation. That's why you're watching us. That's why you should stay.
For the disinformation, that's why people are watching. For the disinformation, yeah, that checks out. These people are kings of disinformation. That's all they propagate. Seriously, it's insane. Some of the stuff that they talk about on here and spread, some of the ideas they spread. Quick interjection, this won't take long. I just want to say, if you want to support my channel, the best way you can do it is by watching this video to the end, or at least watching a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. YouTube's recommendation algorithm works off of watch time. You can also subscribe to the channel, like the video, and check out my Patreon. Link is in the description for that. All right, back to the video.
Stay tuned to us because we're going to continue to bring you exactly what's going on. So last night, you probably didn't see this. Very few reported on it. Look at what happened at the DNC last night. Watch.
Democratic National Convention, I think. So what happened at the Democratic Convention or whatever? Okay.
And as the President of the United States was facing protests at AIPAC, the headquarters of his Democratic Party endured their own protests back.
Okay, AIPAC, as they just mentioned, AIPAC is a political action committee. It's basically like a super PAC that is pro-Israel, and any candidate that is willing to support Israel, they will put money into them. Like, no matter who it is, Republican or Democrat, they don't care. It's usually Republican because Republicans are, ultra right-wing. They're basically Republicans being the evangelical extremists that they tend to be. The Republican Party is very much driven by the evangelical voting bloc at this point. Evangelicals tend to be an interesting version of pro-Israel and anti-Semitic simultaneously. It's bizarre. In fact, I was just talking about this recently on my Fireside Chat channel about a guy named John Hagee, who's famous for being anti-Semitic, right? John McCain in 2008 rejected this guy's endorsement because he's anti-Semitic. And now this guy, John Hagee, is showing up to all these pro-Israel, March for Israel things. It's insane. So it's like, why is this guy pro-Israel and anti-Semitic? How did this happen? And the answer is evangelicals, like these people, like the people that Donald Trump panders to, they believe that Jews need to inhabit the Holy Land before the end can come. And when the end comes, all of the Jews in Israel are going to be killed, wiped out. 2/3, I think, will be wiped out, and the other 1/3 will convert to Christianity. Something to that effect. So don't get it twisted. The people we're listening to right now are not pro-Jewish person. They're not anti-discrimination against Jews. They are some of the worst perpetrators of discrimination against the Jewish community. They perpetuate lies and slander and blood libel and all of these old anti-Semitic tropes that have existed for, well, thousands of years, but were primarily put pen to paper about 1902 with the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. They perpetuate this stuff. They always have, these evangelicals we're listening to. They hate Jewish people, but need Israel to exist, so they will pour as much money as it takes into preserving the country of Israel and rebuilding the Third Temple over the Dome of the Rock, a massive Islamic holy site, basically. So, anyway, just don't want you to get confused here. These people are not pro-Jew.
States was facing protests at AIPAC. The headquarters of his Democratic Party endured their own protests back in Washington after activists gathered right in front of the DNC demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The demonstrators reportedly trapped lawmakers and their staff until police arrived, breaking up the scene and setting up a face-off with protesters. Those protests this evening took place just days after a mass pro-Israel protest descended on Washington and after more than 100 congressional staffers walked out of Capitol Hill demanding the administration call for a ceasefire.
Okay, so now these people are going to talk about how Democrats don't support Israel and how they're depraved and evil and anti-Semitic and blah, blah, blah. In reality, these people here, the Republicans on screen, or this Republican, and the ones that are on this show, are deeply anti-Semitic. AIPAC, the pro-Israel super PAC, has put an absurd amount of money into supporting evangelical extremist candidates. And, you know, here we are as a result. Like, this bed has kind of been made for them. And my God, it's just crazy, bro. It's just insane.
All right, Lance, you see that happened last night. I don't know, you and I haven't really talked about this. I mean, it was staggering what was going on there. Now, that, interestingly enough, that was ABC News. They carried the more tame part of the protest. It got...
the more tame part? So I guess he's saying that it was like really, really extreme and insane or something?
More, it got worse from there. Look at this. Chad Pergram posts, all House office buildings locked down, no exit or entry due to pro-Palestinian demonstration on Capitol Hill.
Okay, who is Chad Pergram? Why am I looking at a tweet from this guy? Or Zeet, I guess, since it's X rather than Twitter now. Why am I looking at this guy's Zeet? Who is this dude? Let me look this up. Chad Pergram. Yeah, Chad Pergram. He's just a Fox News political commentator, not journalist, political commentator. That's it. He's just a political commentator on Fox. Okay, great. I don't know why I should trust this dude and trust a word out of his mouth.
All house buildings, significant demonstration, no entry or exit is permitted. You may move throughout the building. So these people were really in a total lockdown. I think that's pretty newsworthy, Lance. But it got worse. Go ahead. Your comment.
It's newsworthy, and in a kind of mischievous way. It's fascinating to see how the left is cannibalizing itself as it experiences the inevitable byproduct of all those years of their teaching in the universities. Listen to all the kids. You could hear almost like the teenage enthusiasm in the audience, in the crowd there, because they're recruiting these kids. By the way, there was the New York Times wasn't even being mentioned much in the news. Their whole building was sieged in New York.
Wait, I'm sorry. This guy just said something about kids and college campuses. What did that have to do with anything? I don't understand. What was he even talking about just now? Just step back 15 seconds. Listen to what he just said. It sounded like complete nonsense.
Product of all those years of their teaching in the universities. Listen to all the kids. You could hear almost like the teenage enthusiasm in the audience, in the crowd there, because they're recruiting these kids. By the way,
what is he talking about? I don't understand. What does this have to do with anything? Is he saying that kids have enthusiasm over politics? Or what? I'm just so lost by what he's saying here. Cootmaster, hate those guys who run up to me saying, "Oh, love you so much. We love the Jews." BS, they don't. I know, it's disturbing and weird, right? Thank you for standing up, supporting me/us. Absolutely. Do anything that I can for the Jewish community, for real. I have called out anti-Semitism from day one. People like John Hagee, people like who we're listening to right now, are not in favor of helping the Jewish community. They're in favor of murdering the entire Jewish community. They just need Israel to exist. That's it. That's all there is to it. And it's psychotic and disturbing. Anyway, let's keep listening here. Whoop. Here we go.
There was the New York Times wasn't even being mentioned much in the news. Their whole building was sieged in New York.
Look, I don't know what he's talking about. I live in New York City. I've been right past the New York Times building. I've seen it 1,000 times, walked by it pretty frequently, actually. Didn't see anything like that. No clue what he's going on about. New York City doesn't have massive protests that are just destroying everything. I just went to the pharmacy earlier. Just hang out, do whatever. There's no insane mob trying to kill people. Dude is trying to fearmonger to the best of his ability.
The New York Times and the Democratic Party are under attack by left-wing radicals. Something interesting is happening in America, because it isn't a right-wing thing that they're attacking. It's their own party.
No, they're attacking, people to the left are also unhappy with what the right is doing. It's just they seem to be a little bit more disturbed by what the left is doing because they expected more of the left. They expected more of, say, John Fetterman. I didn't expect the dude to come out in favor of, Israel genociding an entire group of people and using the same disturbing tactics that I've seen from genocidal governments since the very beginning. I was thinking genocidal corporations because that's what is, going on in this game.
They're starting to eat themselves.
The left isn't eating themselves. I think people are just starting to realize how whacked out, how much of a stranglehold the Israeli government has, not Jewish people, the Israeli government and AIPAC have on our political lobby. That's all. And how much of a stranglehold they have on the Jewish community. They've spent so much time and money and everything on brainwashing them into tying their identity to Israel. It's insane. You use Israeli and Jewish person interchangeably almost at this point. It's crazy. Anyway.
They are strange. John, you see this. Now, this is footage that was happening as things got worse throughout the night.
By the way, I don't know what they're showing here. I don't believe a word out of their mouths. If they say the sky is blue, you need to double check. They take things out of context all the time. They straight up lie about things. They don't even need to take it out of context. They'll just fabricate it. So be extremely skeptical of anything you see here for real. By the way, Islam means peace. Thank you, Roman, for that information. Yes, I think the word salam means peace. And people claim that Islam derives from the word salam. But to my knowledge, it does not. To my knowledge, the word salam and Islam are not connected. But anyways, either way, adherents of the religion of Islam, not all of them, feel that, peace should be a central tenet. Or they claim it does, but they don't live that way. So, same with Christianity, to be fair. Anyway, let's keep listening here.
We muted the audio because they were talking a lot about your mother and things like that.
Oh my, the gall. Did you hear that? Talking about they muted the audio. Oh boy, these people don't like your mother jokes. I love it.
John, you see this. Now, this is footage that was happening as things got worse throughout the night. We muted the audio because they were talking a lot about your mother and things like that.
Talking about your mother. Oh, I love it. Whose mother exactly? Talking about Gene Bailey's mother? I talk about Gene Bailey's mother all the time. Oh, what a stupid thing to get upset about.
But I mean, this got to be pretty significant, John.
I didn't see a lot of it, but we do, I really want to echo something Lance just said. We have a major problem. 51% of Americans aged 18 to 24, 51% believe that Hamas was justified in the Israel massacre.
This is what I'm talking about right here. Okay, this is the lead singer of the band Skillet. Remember a minute ago I said they lie about things regularly? They twist things around, take it out of context? Interestingly enough, that statistic he just cited, completely made up. I have no idea where I'm going right now. I remember this part as being really confusing. I did get past this part in my original playthrough, but it's just like, what the hell am I supposed to be doing? I have no clue. Anyway, the real statistic is 1% of the United States supports Hamas. That is such an obscenely low number. I don't even know what to do with it. And this guy comes in and says it's 51% of the left. Come on. Really? Maybe he saw that 1% and then said, well, the left only makes up about 2% of the country, and if it's 1% of the country, then 51% of the left. I mean, I don't know what twisted up ridiculous logic he used to get there. Maybe there was no logic. Maybe he just fabricated it right out of the ether. I don't know. You tell me what you think. Did he make this up, or did he get it from somebody else who made this statistic up? Listen again.
We have a major problem. 51% of Americans aged 18 to 24, 51% believe that Hamas was justified in the Israel massacre on October 7th, justified with the raping of innocent civilians, the burning of babies. Everybody's heard all the same stuff.
Yeah, we've heard all of this. Thank you for putting it in context for us and saying all this stuff that I'm going to have to censor later. This isn't true. None of it is true. It's fear-mongering. There's this hashtag letter to America or something like that on TikTok, and it was a hashtag about Osama bin Laden's letter to the American people after he ran the planes into the buildings on September 11th, 2001. And the letter was just propagandistic garbage. It was like a stream of consciousness where the dude just sat down and got out every grievance that he could possibly think of. It was absurd. He sounded exactly like a televangelist to me. But so Fox News and the New York Post and the Daily Mail and all the right-wing sources made this big deal out of the fact that there was a Letter to America hashtag, and there were a bunch of videos on it, and people were talking about how, you know, it opened their eyes to America being evil and stuff. I read this letter that Osama bin Laden wrote, the entire thing beginning to end, and I'm going to upload it to my Fireside Chat channel if you guys want to see it. But as it turns out, the original Letter to America hashtag on Tuesday and Wednesday, when this was originally being discussed, had 274 videos. 274. That's like nothing. For a viral, quote unquote, a viral TikTok trend, it's nothing. 274 videos, 1.8 million views over 2 days. I have videos with 1.8 million views, or maybe 1.3 million or somewhere in that vicinity. 1.8 million views is not that many for a hashtag. It's not viral at this point, okay? But Republicans looking for an excuse or looking for some way to attack the left wrote this big Twitter thread about like how evil this is and how the left has gone too far and they're so stupid and blah, blah, blah. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, 1.8 million views on the hashtag. Thursday and Friday, I think, it had 30 million views. 30 million. It jumped from 2 million to 30 million after it was exposed and talked about on Fox News and everything else. Everybody wanted to go there and see this hashtag. And Hamas has 1% support in the U.S. 1%. So this idea that Gen Z, like, supports Hamas and supports, Palestine attacking Israel or whatever, and supports bin Laden's letter and all this other stuff. It's nonsense. It was all fabricated outrage from the start. But I wanted to read the letter anyways. One more thing about this. This is the same type of I have no idea where I'm going in this game right now. What am I doing? And why is it so, confusing? Why can't it be a little bit more straightforward? It's kind of annoying. Anyway, this is a tactic the right has a tendency to use a lot. In 1989, June 21st, 1989, the Supreme Court ruled on whether or not people should be allowed to burn the American flag. Okay? Now, who was burning the American flag? Nobody. Nobody was burning the American flag. There was one guy, maybe, who burned the American flag. May have even been a hypothetical. I have no clue. It was not this big trend that was happening at the time. Maybe one guy did it, and they used that guy as an example to go to the Supreme Court and claim that the entire left wanted to burn American flags. Slandering the left with this idea that they're just out to destroy America or whatever. This is what the right has always done. The KKK used to do this exact strategy back in the day when they were in their heyday. They've largely fallen from grace. They used to control entire towns, the KKK, not as much anymore. But this is the same thing they used to do. They will claim the left is doing something psychotic and blow it up into this huge thing and make a huge deal out of it, even though nobody said or did that, nobody actually supported this, nobody cared. They'll still claim it, make a big deal out of it, and make it into this, they'll bring it from 2 million views to 30 million views in a day, that kind of thing. So let's continue listening to this Skillet guy propagandize and lie for the right.
Of innocent civilians, the butchering of babies. Everybody's heard all the same stuff, putting living children in ovens and burning them.
None of this is true. This is all completely fabricated. Is Hamas bad? Yes, absolutely. Hamas is disgusting and evil. So is Hezbollah. So is ISIS. They're all awful. I don't stand for any of those people. I don't believe in any of that. And in an ideal world, those people would be de-radicalized and see what they were doing for what it is. Absolutely grotesque, evil, and disturbing. But, we don't live in a perfect world, so, got to deal with what we've got here. Whether Hamas is doing that stuff or not, though, does not justify the absolute horrific slaughter that's taking place in Gaza. It also doesn't justify lying about it. You don't have to make things up to make Hamas out to be evil. Like, they're already evil. Just, don't lie about it. I don't get this logic.
To death is some of the most demonic, horrific things I've ever heard of. So we have a major problem. And I think what, my passion is to help educate Christians so Christians understand that wokeness or identity politics, hard leftism, whatever you want to call it, it is a totalizing worldview, and it is at odds with Western civilization. It is.
Can you explain the worldview to me? Worldviews are all-encompassing ideals that people strive to enact, basically. Atheism is not a worldview, but secular humanism is a worldview, for example. It's kind of like a statement, a moral statement, or a statement of your interest or whatever. Here's secular humanism's worldview. Human beings are capable of being ethical and moral without religion or belief in a deity. It does not, however, assume that humans are either inherently good or evil, nor does it present humans as being superior to nature. That's a worldview. So what's this leftist worldview that he's talking about? What is this woke worldview he's describing here? All right, I'm sorry, Miki. You're going to have to move. Hang on. You guys get to see Miki for a second while I move her. Sorry, guys. Had to get her out of the way. Okay, let's continue.
At odds with Christianity.
Right.
Their belief is that if you have a revolution against the oppressors, then whatever you do is justified. Whatever you do is moral because you are the oppressed. And that is a way to wreck the entire Western civilization.
Oh, that's fascinating. What he's talking about is an ends justify the means mentality. And ends justify the means mentality is absolutely a deeply disturbing and dangerous way to view the world. It is a hallmark of a cult. When you see groups using an ends justify the means mentality, it's sure to end in tears. For example, Scientology has an ends justify the means mentality when it comes to fair gaming people that speak out against them or whatever. They will ruin your life. They'll do all kinds of messed up stuff to you just because they can, because it's worth it to ruin your life at any cost. Ends justify the means. The end is getting you to shut up or ruining your life. That's the end. The means, whatever it is that they have to do, is justified. Now, interestingly enough, that's not actually how the left, I guess if as a monolith, if you want to group it that way, the Democratic Party, that's not how it views things. MAGA, however, that is how MAGA views things. Fascinating to hear them talking about this.
Are the oppressed, and that is a way to wreck the entire Western civilization.
Let me go to you, Dinesh. You heard John there. Is this wrecking the Western civilization? Is that the goal here?
Is that the goal? They're saying it's the goal of the left to destroy America. Really?
Well, the goal here is to Obama had a pretty good term for it, the remaking of America.
Okay, I never heard Obama use it that way, but let's hear this propagandist for the right, Dinesh D'Souza, twist Obama's words around to be something other than what he actually meant.
It's remaking that the left is all about, not mere destruction. So sometimes I think we misunderstand them. We're like, oh, they're destroying the military. No, they don't like what the military has been and what the military stands for. They would like to deploy a military that would go against patriots and conservatives and Republicans and Christians. If they are able to refashion the military that way, they will count that as success.
No. Who is they, by the way? What is he talking about? When I say they, I'm almost always talking about the people that are on this show specifically and the Republican leaders in Congress. Who is he talking about? Who wants to refashion the military to target Trump supporters with it? What?
Similarly, the police. Although they say defund the police, the left wants to remake the police. They want to make the police into a kind of militia.
Where's he getting all of this? I'll tell you where he's getting all of this. From his ass. He's getting it from his ass. He's getting it from nowhere. This is completely made up. But he's trying to scare Trump supporters, so he's going to make up the most horrific scenario he can possibly imagine.
Conservatives and Republicans and Christians. If they are able to refashion the military that way, they will count that as success. Similarly, the police. Although they say defund the police, the left wants to remake the police. They want to make the police into a kind of militia that they can use domestically against their opponents.
His evidence? Trust me, bro.
And by the way, these are the hallmarks of a police state. That's the title of my new film. And what a police state is a deployment of the militarized and police agencies of government.
By the way, if you don't know this guy, my God, those buzzwords he's throwing down. He's the guy that created the propaganda film 2000 Mules. This BS propaganda arguing for the idea that Trump was cheated out of the election and the left lied and blah, 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 you know, all that stuff. What the hell am I supposed to be doing here? I have no clue what is going on. Am I just supposed to be like walking around and talking to people or what? Why is it not letting me in? See, this is one of the things that really pisses me off about this game. I love Final Fantasy VII so much. It is a fantastic, incredible story, but it won't let me go out of bounds away from this area, and it won't let me in here, and it keeps saying, come back to this house. This is really, really annoying. I am frustrated beyond belief by this. Anyway, let's keep listening here.
Hallmarks of a police state. That's the title of my new film. And what a police state is a deployment of the militarized and police agencies of government domestically against one of the two political parties. Police states tend to be one-party states. And I think we are seeing a serious effort to build a one-party state in America.
Well, give me evidence. I'll take anything. He says there's a serious effort for Democrats to build a one-party state in the U.S. That's really what he's saying here. One piece of evidence. I will take anything at all.
Similar to what we see in North Korea, China, the old Soviet Union, classic police states from now or in the past.
Oh, my God. And he's now using communism to scare the old Soviet Union. He's trying everything he can, pulling out all the stops to scare the shit out of old white people.
All right, well, let me show you what happened the day before, those of you home watching. You need to see, this is a lot of what was going on just 24 hours before. Watch.
We are here united, Democrat and Republican, House and Senate, to say we stand with Israel.
Yeah, so Chuck Schumer, leader of the Senate on the Democrat side, and actually I believe he's the current leader of the Senate, right? Because the Senate is controlled by Democrats right now. Anyways, a lot of people are not happy about this at all. This is actually grotesque and evil. All right, let me explain what Israel is doing that is so disgusting to me and disturbing. Think about this, okay? North Korea is absolutely terrible. It is an extremist regime that brainwashes their citizenry from a very young age, convinces them that everybody on the outside is out to get them and hates them and blah, 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 right? I guess I'm supposed to be just exploring the slums here. This is really annoying. Why is it not just letting me continue with the story? This is the kind of thing that makes me want to just throw the game out the window, seriously. Anyways. So North Korea has, for example, in the past, they've had textbooks, like math textbooks for kids, right? And in the textbook, it says things like, if you have 5 American bastards and you shoot 3 American bastards, then how many American bastards do you have left? You know, that level of propaganda against people that they don't like. What GPU am I running? This is not on PC. This is on PS4. You guys don't even know what was involved in getting this thing to stream. It was a pain. But anyways, North Korea is completely ass backwards, and the citizenry, some of them are certainly friendly to the outside world. The vast majority, I'd be willing to bet, hate the outside world, hate South Korea, and hate U.S. citizens, and would do anything they could to attack us or whatever. Now imagine this. Imagine South Korea deciding to just pull the trigger, just invade North Korea, take it over, try to free the people. And in their effort to free the people, just imagine with me for a second, they take missiles and indiscriminately bomb massive amounts of civilians in city. They just shoot missiles at Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, and destroy it, just bring it down to rubble. I don't care how much North Koreans hate Americans or whatever. That is wrong on so many levels. Human life is the most precious and valuable thing in existence in the entire universe, in the known universe. And killing people indiscriminately who may or may not have done anything at all is just wrong. I don't care if they hate me or not. I don't care if they're anything. I don't care. And I feel the same way about Israel and how they're treating Palestinians right now. Yes, Hamas bad. Absolutely. That does not justify you murdering indiscriminately civilians who didn't do anything to anybody. It's just wrong. Jesus Christ, finally. I apparently had to talk to some kid somewhere. Like, why? Why did they send me on this stupid trek that was absolutely pointless, did nothing for me? It was very annoying. This is a really cool game. I like it a lot. But that kind of shit right there drives me insane. I just don't put that in your game, okay? Don't make me go wandering around aimlessly, have no idea what I'm doing, with no information, no nothing. Jesus Christ, dude. Anyways. Yeah, I'm just disgusted with, like, what Israel is doing. And, you know what else I'm disgusted with? I'm disgusted by the fact that Democrats in positions of power, like Chuck Schumer, are saying things like, we stand with Israel like that. No, I don't stand with Israel as they wantonly genocide an innocent group of people. I don't. I stand with Jews and I stand with Palestinians. I don't stand with the absolutely psychotic Israeli government. By the way, people are fired from their jobs for saying that. In some states, it's illegal. I think 37 states or something. It's illegal to partake in boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. It's against the law to boycott Israel. Like not buying hummus, for example. Like if you decide not to buy hummus, which by and large comes out of Israel, that's against the law. I mean, it's unenforceable, but it's there. And I have to imagine it's largely there because of AIPAC. It's just, God, it's disgusting, man. Absolutely disgusting, for real. Anyway.
There are few issues in.
Oh, this is the Speaker of the House currently, Mike Johnson, right-wing evangelical nutcase. He's one of those people, one of the guys that loves Israel because he needs it to exist for, the end to come, but hates Jews and expects to see them all die a horrific, ugly death one day.
Washington that could so.
Let me step back. Listen again.
There are few issues in Washington that could so easily bring together leaders of both parties in both chambers. But the survival of the state of Israel and her people unites us together, and it unites all Americans.
I know you are in pain. I know you are afraid. I know you feel alone and abandoned by people you thought were your friends. I know you feel misunderstood and maligned. I know because I do too.
I am here to do.
Oh, yeah. God, John Hagee, of all people. I was talking about him a few minutes ago. This is at the March for Israel or whatever thing it was. I don't remember what it was called now, but what a psychotic, bizarre, odd thing for this guy to appear at when he is very obviously openly anti-Semitic. If you don't believe me on that, let me just show you the clip that I talked about recently on my podcast. Hold on. It's really old. It's from the 90s. But it's an idea that this guy has held all this time. He's put it into his books and talked about it and tried to get people to agree with it generally. Here you go. Here is John Hagee talking about his views on Hitler and the Jews.
The answer is fishers and hunters. The answer is given in Jeremiah 16, verse 15 and following. God says in Jeremiah 16, "Behold, I will bring them, the Jewish people, again into their land that I gave unto their fathers." That would be Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. "Behold, I will send for many fishers, and after will I send for many hunters, and they, the hunters, shall hunt them."
So he's saying that God prophesied in this ass-backwards interpretation of a Bible verse that is incorrect, that John Hagee, incorrectly read prophecy into. He says that this prophecy says that God is going to drive people back to Israel so that the end will come, basically. And he's going to use fishers and hunters to do it. That's not what the verse was saying, but okay.
"Many fishers, and after will I send for many hunters, and they, the hunters, shall hunt them." That will be the Jews. "From every mountain and from every hill and from out of the holes of the rocks." If that doesn't describe what Hitler did in the Holocaust, you can't see that.
I.e., Hitler was acting with God's hand. Hitler had God's blessing to do what he did to the Jews. That's what he was saying. And now he is here at this March for Israel or whatever, pro-Israel rally. I'm telling you, man, this movement is as anti-Semitic as it gets. I don't give a shit if they say that they're pro-Israel or not. It's nonsense. They're anti-Semitic nutcases, all of them.
Deliver a singular message. Israel, you are not alone. I want you to shout that loud enough for them to hear it in Jerusalem. Ready? Jerusalem, Israel, you are not alone. Israel, you are not alone.
My name is Rachel, and I am the mother of Hirsch Goldberg Poland, a wounded civilian American Israeli kidnapped from the music festival on October 7th.
I'm so sorry for that. I'm really, really sorry to hear about that, actually. It's deeply heartbreaking that people were captured like that. And again, indiscriminate killing of people who did not deserve it. I read Osama bin Laden's letter on my stream the other day, right? And his justification for attacking civilians basically went like this. You live in a democracy, and that means that you control your government to some degree, and you have, I know he's talking to each individual American here, and you have chosen not to elect different leaders who would do different things. So you are ultimately a valid target because this all routes back to your decision to vote, i.e., you deserve what you get with 9/11 and everything because you live in a democracy. That was his ultimate argument. This is absolute psychosis that we're seeing on like the right. I'm talking about the Islamic right and the Christian right, both. Insanity.
38 nights, none of us have slept the real sleep of the before.
As we read in the Word.
The hell does that mean? 38 nights? We haven't slept the real sleep of the before. She's saying we haven't slept since they took him. We haven't slept a good night since they took him. What a weird cryptic thing to say. I don't want to say this without evidence, but I'm going to look the evidence up just to see if I'm correct on it. I believe, okay, as of 5 hours ago. Yes, okay. Take a look at this. This is what I thought. This is from The Guardian. Netanyahu rejected a ceasefire for hostages deal in Gaza, sources say. Israeli Prime Minister said to have turned down proposal in early talks and continues to take tough line. So this woman here, who's really broken up about this, justifiably so, she's upset that she's lost her family member because they were taken by Hamas, and she's lashing out at Palestine. Well, guess who you should be lashing out at, really? Guess who is really to blame here? Netanyahu. Netanyahu rejected ceasefire for hostages deal in Gaza, sources say. This is November 9th. Benjamin Netanyahu rejected a deal for a 5-day ceasefire with Palestinian militant groups in Gaza in return for the release of some of the hostages. Wow, 5-day ceasefire, 5-day. In exchange for some of the hostages held in the territory early in the war, according to sources familiar with the negotiations. Okay, they're not revealing their sources, but The Guardian is pretty trustworthy, especially on foreign issues. The sources said the Israeli Prime Minister rejected the deal outright in negotiations soon after Hamas militants staged an unprecedented incursion into Israeli territory on October 7th, killing an estimated 1,400 people. I thought it was like 700 or 900. I guess it wasn't. Negotiations resumed after the launch of the Israeli ground offensive on the 27th of October, but the same sources said Netanyahu had continued to take a tough line on proposals involving ceasefires of different durations in exchange for varying number of hostages. Others indicated negotiations which took place prior to the ground invasion involved a far larger number of hostages, with Hamas proposing the release of dozens of foreign nationals captive in Gaza. So, anyways, this is Netanyahu's doing. Netanyahu did this. Netanyahu was given the opportunity to get at least some of the hostages back, and what did he do? Rejected the ceasefire. There's an update to this story, though. This came out. So the last one was November 9th. The newer one is, the newer one is from Reuters. Netanyahu asked Israeli oh my God, please, no, I don't want to support you, Reuters. Netanyahu asked Israeli government to back Hamas hostage deal. So he's only the prime minister. He only has so much power. He's been trying to consolidate that power lately, but can only do so much, you know. Jerusalem, November 21st, Reuters. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asked his government on Tuesday to back a deal to clear the way for the release of some of the hostages that Palestinian Hamas militants took to the Gaza Strip during October 7th's assault on Israel. In a recorded message at the start of a government meeting, Netanyahu vowed the war would continue until Israel achieved all its goals. A U.S. official said the deal will include a 4 or 5 day ceasefire, the first pause in 6 weeks of an Israeli bombardment of Gaza. So he took the deal finally. We'll get the hostages. I mean, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, how many died in that time period? How many were malnourished or didn't have enough food, water, whatever, or sleep? How many were tortured in that time period? Speaking after presenting the still undisclosed details of the deal to his war cabinet and the wider national security cabinet, Netanyahu told his government it was a difficult decision, but the right decision, and would enable Israel to go on fighting Hamas. Look, one of my big problems with this whole situation is that Israel lies about what's happening constantly. Constantly. It's a nonstop barrage of lie after lie after lie from these people. Let me find one example of what I'm talking about here. Hang on. Okay, listen to this video. It's by the BBC, and it should serve as an example of what I'm talking about when I say the Israeli government, not Jews, the government, is completely untrustworthy. I don't believe a word out of their mouths. I believe the Israeli government less than I believe Palestine at this point. Let me show you why. Listen to this BBC report.
Thank you. Well, BBC Verify has been examining the different sources of information that we have on this. Israel describes the Al-Shifa hospital as the main headquarters for Hamas's terrorist activity.
The Al-Shifa hospital has been attacked and bombed, and people have claimed that it's all, you know, a Hamas staging ground and everything else. And it all turned out to be a lie. Israel lied about this.
This IDF animation, posted in late October, claims to represent a Hamas tunnel system underneath the hospital. But having been inside Al-Shifa since early Wednesday, Israel's yet to produce evidence of the tunnels. It has allowed the BBC and Fox News to film.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, man. I need evidence. I don't believe a word out of these people's mouths. I need evidence for everything that I believe.
Tunnels. It has allowed the BBC and Fox News to film at the hospital, though only locations of Israel's choice.
This is what they found.
Israel also released its own 7-minute video, which BBC Verify has analysed. A watch visible in that video suggests it was filmed a few hours before the BBC arrived.
Russia does the exact same things and have fallen for the same stupid mess-ups where Russia films propaganda videos and you can see a clock in the frame or a watch or something and they forgot to take off or remove. And it shows that it was not filmed when they claimed that it was filmed. Seriously, this is like, God, dude. If you're going to make a propaganda film, guys, take your watches off, okay? On second thought, don't.
It was filmed a few hours before the BBC arrived. And this IDF video was posted, then deleted, then reposted. This time without a section referring to an Israeli soldier who'd been held hostage.
I don't know when this was used the last time.
Also in the video, we see a room with an MRI machine.
And if you zoom in and we get some light over here, what you'll be able to see is military equipment.
The BBC was shown the same.
So they're showing guns in an MRI room. They're claiming that Hamas kept their guns in an MRI room. FYI, if the MRI machine is on, which is like 24/7, the magnets are running. You cannot have metal anywhere near an MRI machine like this. And it's simply completely absurd at its face to believe that this was happening. But keep listening, it gets even more absurd.
It's military equipment.
The BBC was shown the same room. And what we see in the two videos doesn't precisely match. For example, there's one gun in the IDF video, two by the time of the BBC footage. Israel has told BBC Verify this is because more weaponry and terrorist assets were discovered throughout the day.
And as always,
Totally. I bet. Yeah, absolutely. That checks out.
An AK-47.
Israel also says its video is a single shot with no edits. But this appears to be an edit. We don't know the reasons.
It was an edit. I edit videos for a living. That was an edit. It was a jump cut. I know exactly what a jump cut looks like.
An edit.
And how to identify one. That was a jump cut. It was not filmed in one complete frame. Why lie about this? They are so bad at lying. Seriously. This is my problem with Israel. This is why I don't trust a word out of their mouths as a government. Because of things like this. You know, if Israel were trustworthy, with everything that they talk about or that they release or that whatever, with all the evidence that they lay down, I would believe them much more readily than I do. But they're never accurate with this. It's like they constantly lie about it. Insane. FF7 remake looks amazing. Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely does. I'm not paying too much attention to it, though. Usually I'd be listening to the voice acting and the music and everything is all top tier. Really, really good.
We don't know the reasons for that edit, nor how significant it is. The IDF, though, says suggestions it's manipulating the media are incorrect. The IDF video also shows military equipment in other locations.
They're definitely manipulating the media. That's what's happening. They're lying to the media. Absolutely. Why? Don't know. Did they actually find this stuff? Was this legit? Don't know. Maybe. But they definitely lied to the media. They're trying to manipulate the media for sure.
The IDF video also shows military equipment in other locations, though we can't verify how it came to be there. And what we see in this IDF video doesn't equate to Israel's description of Al-Shifa as an operational command center for Hamas. The US is using a different phrase, saying Al-Shifa was used as a command and control node. That implies a much smaller facility. And as Israel makes the case for this operation, let's consider the Geneva Conventions, the foundations of the rules of war. They state that hospitals can lose their protection if they are used to commit acts harmful to the enemy. Israel believes Hamas has done this in Al-Shifa and says that what's been discovered so far is just the start.
And what we have found, I think, is only the tip of the iceberg.
Israel is adamant this hospital was a command center, but for now, at least, it's either not found supporting evidence or it's not sharing it. Back to you, Sophie. Thank you.
So this is my point. This is why I don't trust a word out of Israel's mouth ever. Not one word. They're completely untrustworthy. They've lost all credibility and they've lost their what's the word I'm looking for here? They've lost their goodwill here with me. They've lost their expectation they've lost my trust. Right? I can't trust a word out of their mouths now because it's constant lie after lie after lie with these people. And I don't know why. I don't know what the purpose is. Why are you lying? Just like tell the truth about this stuff, you know? Like, yeah, Hamas is bad. You don't have to lie to convince me of that. They just want to make Hamas that much worse, and it's just weird, you know? Anyway, the point is that these televangelists that we're listening to are absolutely unglued from reality and will do whatever it takes to lie in favor of Israel. Not in favor of Jews. Israel. It's just disgusting, man.
Civilian American Israeli kidnapped from the music festival on October 7th. For 38 nights, none of us have slept the real sleep of the before.
Okay, that was a super weird way to phrase it, but all right, thank you. We haven't slept the real sleep of the before.
We read in the words of the prophet Jeremiah, restrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your work will be rewarded, declares the Lord. They will return from the land of the enemy.
The choice between good and evil has never been clearer. Do you
See, this whole good versus evil thing is about as disturbing as it gets for me. Why are people framing it like they are good and the enemy is evil? This is black and white thinking, and it is exactly what led people to do psychotic things in World War II. For example, I got a billion examples of this. The genocide of Rwanda is another example. There are a billion examples of absolutely psychotic situations coming about because of this mindset. What is wrong with these people? Why are they doing this? Why are they framing it like this?
You stand with a terror organization that kills women, children, and the elderly in cold blood? Or do you stand with the democracy that does everything in its power to protect civilian life on both sides?
Did he say Israel protects civilian life on both sides? You can't be serious with this. Does he think that people believe this? Israel has terribly mistreated civilians. That's my primary problem. They mistreat civilians horrifically. In fact, they don't differentiate between civilians and combatants. They're the same to these people, and it's horrific and disgusting and wrong. That is my primary issue here.
Life on both sides.
Yeah. Since when did Israel give a shit about human life in Gaza? Literally never.
Now, I know what you're thinking. That's the first time you've seen Speaker Mike Johnson along in agreement with Chuck Schumer. Lance, it really was a rare opportunity for a unified front, what we saw on that day.
I'm actually surprised to find that the Democrats the Democratic leadership in Congress is so deeply in favor of Israel, no matter how much horrific stuff they do. I'm surprised to find out that they're like that, actually. I thought for sure that they would have some principle, but I guess not. I am in favor of the Jewish community and their safety and prospering. I am deeply, deeply opposed to what Israel is doing. It does not get more wrong than that.
It was a rare opportunity, but it also reflects a kind of an interesting question about the real influence that the Jewish community has in America. And that's part of what frustrates me, because you're seeing the Jewish donor class, for instance, that are more to the moderate side of the Democratic Party, up in arms over the fact that the Democrats have been so flat-footed in terms of trying to be clear about this message. And listen, this is a tough situation for them because they lose votes.
Dude, what the hell is he even talking about? And where am I supposed to be bringing this thing? I don't understand. Am I supposed to be dropping this right here?
Clear about this message. And listen, this is a tough situation for them because they lose votes with the radicals and with their Arab community if they don't walk a certain line. But they have unity there. My challenge is the problem we have with all of the riots and such is going to be revealed as an immigration problem where we...
Wait, riots are going to be an immigration problem? Like, what the hell is this guy even saying? I don't understand. I'm just lost.
We really never had a philosophy for who we brought in the country, and an education problem.
We never had a philosophy for who we bring in the country. What?
Both of which the Democrats that are calling for unity right now help to exasperate.
The word is exacerbate, not exasperate. But the Democrats helped exacerbate what?
We really never had a philosophy for who we brought in the country.
No, we didn't. All are welcome. Did you even read the little plaque on the Statue of Liberty? Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Sound familiar? Have you read that before? This is a joke, dude. This guy is a joke. We never had a coherent message for who we should bring in. All are welcome. Tired, poor, huddled masses, wretched refuse. We want everybody. This is just a joke, man. What is wrong with these people?
And an education problem, both of which the Democrats that are calling for unity right now help to exasperate.
Let me show you what was going on. Speaking of media, let me show you what happened. Look at this from John Ashbrook. 290,000 people marched in support of Israel yesterday, and the Washington Post buried it in the metro section.
Wait, 200. Wait, hang on. Listen again.
Let me show you what happened. Look at this from John Ashbrook. 290,000 people marched in support of Israel yesterday.
290,000? 300,000 people marched in Israel? I'm sorry, in favor of Israel? Wait, How many people attended March for Israel? Washington Post buried it? Look, I have the article right here. Tens of thousands of supporters of Israel rally in Washington, crying never again. I'm not seeing 290,000. I'm not seeing 290,000 anywhere in this article at all. I'm not seeing 300,000. I'm not seeing anything. I'm doing the Control F thing, and it's not popping anything. It just says tens of thousands on Washington Post. These people lie for a living, by the way. You have to fact check every word out of their mouths. Seriously.
Happened. 200, look at this from John Ashburg. 290,000 people marched in support of Israel yesterday, and the Washington Post buried it in the Metro section. There's your front page of the.
Wait, in the Metro section? I don't know what they're even talking about right now. I'm so lost. Israeli forces enter key hospital. House passes stopgap funding. As strain builds, legislators almost come to blows. There's nothing about that in here. What are you talking about? I mean, is he just showing like the front page? And also, I'm not seeing anything about 200 or 300,000 people. Is this just a straight up lie? This sounds like just a blatant, flat out lie to me.
The Washington Post. And we continue to see the media ignore what is to happen. Continue. Strain builds, legislator come to blows. They're talking about that. The New York Times actually does cover a little bit of what happened with the pro-Israel rally. USA Today, let me show you that one.
Look, I don't see any reason to believe that there were 300,000 people in D.C. marching in favor of Israel. That is. Wait, what is the population of Washington D.C.? Okay, the population of Washington D.C. is 700,000. So you're telling me half the population of men, women, children, babies, elderly people over the age of 90 all came out to march for Israel? One half of those people? Come on. You've got to be joking.
There it is. Terrifying time to be Jewish for many.
That's true enough. I agree. It is a terrifying time to be Jewish for a lot of people. And it's terrifying to be Muslim, both. There is an absolute, there is pure psychosis running through the population right now. Am I about to get into a battle with these muggers? I think I am.
USA Today, let me show you that one. There it is. Terrifying time to be Jewish for many. This was actually, people were showing up. And even in the famed Wall Street Journal, there it is.
Wall Street Journal is kind of a right-leaning journal, so I don't know why he's saying it like that. Anyways, yeah, Wall Street Journal is right-leaning, so I don't know what they're looking for here.
Picture right there on the front page of what was going on. Here we are. You see Mike Johnson, Chuck Schumer, and Hakeem Jeffries all holding hands in unity. Look at this picture. Americans march for Israel, march to free hostages. That's an unusual sighting there, Dinesh, but yet we still have the same issue with the media not covering, picking and choosing what is news. It seems like they get to decide what they want us to see.
Dude, are you kidding me? Did he just say the media gets to pick and choose what they want us to see? Listen again.
Dinesh, but yet we still have the same issue with the media not covering, picking and choosing what is news. That seems.
To be fair, there is such a thing as story selection bias is what it's called, I believe. And the idea is you just completely ignore certain things that are less than favorable to your narrative and zero in on things that are favorable to it. And you see this constantly with Flashpoint. Nearly everybody has it. Every commentary show has this. Like, I have this, I have story selection bias. I primarily talk about things that matter to me, things that I care about. Evangelical, extremists, Donald Trump, whatever. And these people constantly talk about how great Trump is. So, yeah, man, I don't want to hear any of this nonsense about how story selection bias is a problem when these people are the worst perpetrators of it. Seriously. It's a joke.
Seems like they get to decide what they want us to see.
Yeah, I have two thoughts about this. The first is that there has been now for some years a major schism or divide on the right in the Republican Party. And I would say it's generally between the MAGA or Make America Great Again, the Trumpian populism on the one side, and a certain kind of conventional Republican kind of establishment philosophy on the other. The Democrats, by contrast, appear to be very united. Nancy Pelosi, for example, would rarely have the kind of squabbling, at least public squabbling.
That's true. That's true. I agree with that. Republicans are very split, and Democrats are at least more united than Republicans are, at the very least.
That we've seen on the Republican side. But now, with the emergence of this issue of Israel, Palestine, Hamas, you have a schism that runs right through the middle of the Democratic Party. And so when you see these leaders holding hands, it should not give you the false idea that there's now some kind of national unanimity on this. Not at all. In fact, the central thread of progressive philosophy is the idea of oppression, cultural Marxism, anti-colonialism, and in that view, Israel.
Wait, did he say that the common thread of progressivism is the idea of oppression? You should be oppressing people? Is that what this dude just said? Just step back. Listen again.
These leaders holding hands, it should not give you the false idea that there's now some kind of national unanimity on this. Not at all. In fact, the central thread of progressive philosophy is the idea of oppression, cultural Marxism, anti-colonialism.
Yeah, he said oppression is a central thread of progressivism. You should be oppressing people, apparently, in this dude's mind. This is insane. What is in this dude's head? What is going on here?
And in that view, Israel is the oppressor. You have all kinds of people these days, and you see it on social media, like praising the philosophy of Osama bin Laden.
No. I talked about this recently. There was this thing, all right, so on TikTok, I'm not going to get into this too much because I talked about this in the last episode. If you're curious, you can watch the last one. But there was a hashtag, I think on TikTok, it was called hashtag Letter to America or something to that effect. It had 274 videos, 274 on Tuesday and Wednesday, right? That's like nothing. And it had a total of 1.8 million views combined between all of those videos. I have videos that have like 1.3 million, I think, views. So 1.8 million, yeah, that's a lot, but that's not viral at all. 274 videos and 1.8 million views is not viral. Well, the right comes along, Fox News and the New York Post and these guys and so on and so forth. Like everybody on the right started claiming that it was a viral TikTok trend to praise Osama bin Laden's letter. The letter he wrote after he ran the planes into the World Trade Centers, right? 274 videos, 1.8 million views combined. And the next day, it went up to 30 million views combined. 30 million. From 2 million to 30 million after the right shouted it out. People claimed that, John Cooper, actually, the singer of Skillet, claimed that 51% of people on the left support Hamas.
You know, I didn't see a lot of it, but we do, I really want to echo something Lance just said. We have a major problem. 51% of Americans aged 18 to 24, 51% believe that Hamas was justified in the Israel massacre.
This is what I'm talking about right here. Okay, this is the lead singer of the band Skillet. Remember a minute ago I said they lie about things regularly? They twist things around, take it out of context? Interestingly enough, that statistic he just cited, completely made up. It's only 1%. 1%. This is just a complete joke, honestly. These people aren't even trying to be convincing anymore with this garbage.
See it on social media, like praising the philosophy of Osama bin Laden.
That's not happening.
Not necessarily.
You know what is happening, though? You know what? Let's just go down this rabbit hole for a second. Again, I talked about the letter from Osama bin Laden. I talked about it on my channel. We read the entire letter from Osama bin Laden, the whole thing, beginning to end. It was long, dude. Oh, my God, is that a long letter. Not as short as it's made out to be. Let me just read you a couple of lines from that letter, okay? This was one of his primary complaints regarding America and why America has to go down, why it has to be destroyed. We call you to be a people of manners, principles, honor, and purity, to reject the immoral acts of fornication, homosexuality, intoxicants like alcohol you're not supposed to drink, gambling, and trading with interest or usury. Here's another one. Here's another line. You are a nation that permits acts of immorality, and you consider them to be pillars of personal freedom. You have continued to sink down this abyss from level to level until incest has spread amongst you. Incest. In the face of which neither your sense of honor nor your laws object. Osama bin Laden thinks that it is both legal and, in our minds, moral to commit incest. It's the right thing to do, according to him, apparently. Now that you've heard some of the objections here from Osama bin Laden, some of his reasons for hating America, for running the planes into the World Trade Center buildings, right? Listen to this televangelist, Jerry Falwell, give his explanation for why he believes Osama bin Laden ran those planes into the building 2 days after 9/11. Okay? He's talking to Pat Robertson. Try to find where it starts.
And with biological warfare available to these monsters, the Husseins, the bin Ladens, the Arafats, what we saw on Tuesday, as terrible as it is, could be minuscule if in fact God continues to lift the curtain and allow the enemies of America to give us probably what we deserve.
You catch that? Jerry Falwell apparently also feels that the United States deserves to be attacked or whatever on 9/11. Apparently agrees with what Osama bin Laden did. Now listen to why he agrees with it. Listen to what he thinks America did to deserve it.
Well, Jerry, that's my feeling. I think we've just seen the antechamber to terror. We haven't even begun to see what they can do to the major population.
The ACLU's got to take a lot of blame for this.
The American Civil Liberties Union, the people that fight for civil liberties, they take the blame for this stuff? Are you kidding?
Oh, yeah.
And I know I'll hear from them for this, but throwing God, or successfully with the help of the federal court system, throwing God out of the public square, out of the schools, the abortion.
Okay, now hang on. Throwing God out of the public squares and out of the schools? Here. You are the nation who, rather than ruling by Sharia, which is God's law, of Allah in its constitution and laws, chose to invent your own laws as you will and desire. You catch this? We're a secular country, and that really pisses off Osama bin Laden. That was Osama bin Laden's reason for running the planes into the buildings. Now listen one more time to Jerry Falwell.
Successfully with the help of the...
Sorry, hang on.
Throwing God, or successfully with the help of the federal court system.
Is this sounding familiar to anybody else?
Throwing God out of the public square, out of the schools. The abortionists have got to bear some burden for this, because God will not be mocked, and when we destroy 40 million little innocent babies...
Okay, that's not happening, first of all. And second, to my knowledge, Islam does not have a problem with abortion. I believe that, you know, in cases of like life of the mother and stuff, it's perfectly justified and everyone's fine with it. America seems to be like the only place where you find extremists that get all pissed off about abortion. But okay, go on.
We make God mad. I really believe that the pagans and the abortionists and the feminists and the gays and...
Feminists and the gays? Is any of this sounding familiar? We call you to be a people of manners, principles, honor, and purity, to reject the immoral acts of fornication, homosexuality, intoxicants, gambling, and trading with interest. Here's one. The American people are the ones who employ both their men and their women in the American forces, which attack us. You're a nation that exploits women like consumer products or advertising tools, calling upon customers to purchase them. You use women to serve passengers, visitors, and strangers to increase your profit margins, i.e., women are allowed to, work as conductors on a train or to work as baristas or whatever. And that's just too much for Osama bin Laden. Does this sound familiar?
We make God mad. I really believe that the pagans and the abortionists and the feminists and the gays and the lesbians who are actively trying to make that an alternative lifestyle, the ACLU, People for the American Way, all of them who tried to secularize America, I point the finger in their face and say, you helped this happen.
I mean, this is just a joke, right? I mean, is anybody else seeing like how deeply wrong this is? How this sounds exactly like Osama bin Laden and what he had to say? Jesus Christ, dude. My point is that the people that we're listening to right now on Flashpoint, Dinesh D'Souza, and all of these other people, dude, what the hell am I doing in this stupid game? This is driving me nuts, okay? I am getting really frustrated with how tedious and annoying this game is at some points. What do you think of this version of FF7 in regards to telling the story? I really like it, actually. The storytelling is on point, honestly. I'm a fan. But I understand some people thought it was tacky and stupid. So, I don't know. It's hard to know for sure how others feel. Anyway. The point is that these people are completely full of shit and have no idea what's going on. And they are the Osama bin Ladens of the Christian world. There really is no difference, effectively. They are so close to Osama bin Laden ideologically, they might as well be Osama bin Laden. No joke. It's insane.
9/11, but applying that philosophy.
Step back. Listen again.
Anti-colonialism, and in that view,
he's describing progressivism, remember.
Cultural Marxism, anti-colonialism, and in that view, Israel is the oppressor. You have all kinds of people these days, and you see it on social media, like praising the philosophy of Osama bin Laden.
Who's really praising the philosophy of Osama bin Laden here? Seriously. It's a joke to me that this dude is not seeing the irony here. It's insane. Are they ever going to realize that they are the problem? Or no? Are they just going to continue blaming the left for everything?
Not necessarily for 9/11, but applying that philosophy now to the Hamas attacks of October 7th. So I think we now have a very interesting situation where both parties have to deal with an internal schism, and this is a new one for...
No, the Democratic Party is not going to have to deal with an internal schism. That's not going to happen. I mean, there are people who are really unhappy with how Joe Biden is handling the Israel situation. And that, it's going to end badly for Biden if he doesn't pull this together. But I still think that he's going to win the election. And of course, he's going to be the nominee and everything still. So, yeah.
For the Democrats to have to deal with. Now, the media...
Like, they're just trying to convince themselves that Biden is just as hated as Trump. And it's simply not true.
Is a whole different matter.
Right.
The media is populated with young leftists through and through. And so when the Washington Post decided, for example, to banish the story to the back page, it's probably because of the influence of the young writers all coming fresh out of the universities, informed by this anti-colonial philosophy.
Not true. Are you kidding me? Informed by this anti-colonial philosophy? Are you saying colonialism is a good thing? You want more colonialism? What is happening right now? And what the hell am I doing? How is it that, what am I supposed to do with this arm? Again, this frustrates the shit out of me. Seriously, why? I've been sitting at this spot with this game for 20 minutes trying to get these stupid arms to do whatever the hell I'm supposed to do with them. And it's driving me nuts. It's a puzzle that's absolutely piss poor.
Israel is seen as the bad guy, even though Israel was not the attacker, but the one that was attacked.
So
they were attacked, and now they are the attackers. It can be both simultaneously. Is it just me? What the hell is happening?
True, but you know what? Since you touched on this, we'll go to our next topic. Just when you thought 9/11, we could go no further, it comes back in a way you never thought possible. Let me play you this clip from Glenn Beck, Bin Laden and the letter to America. Watch.
There is right. So they're talking about what I was just saying with the letter. The irony is just thicker than, as my mom would say, this irony is thicker than molasses in January. They have no idea, do they?
A letter that has just been released. It's an old letter.
It hasn't just been released. It's existed since 2002. It was published November 24th, 2002.
That was released again now through TikTok. And I want...
The letter was released through TikTok? What? No. It was published on The Guardian. Like, this guy doesn't even get his basic facts right.
I want you to listen. This is a letter from Osama bin Laden, and...
Does this guy have COVID? What's wrong with his voice?
People responding. Listen.
This morning I read Letter to America, which is Osama bin Laden's letter to America explaining why he attacked Americans. And I am ashamed to say that I not only have never read this letter, but I didn't even know this letter existed. It's wild, and everyone should read it. If you haven't read it yet, read it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything bad yet. She's just saying you should read the letter, right? I don't understand. What's wrong with this? I'm not picking up what they're putting down.
However, be forewarned that this has left me very disillusioned, and I feel the same exact way I felt when I was deconstructing Christianity. I feel...
And that's why they included it right there. Boom. Ever wonder why they included this one? Because they realize she's an atheist, and that's one more reason to hate her. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen this same exact video on like 16 different analyses of this, Osama bin Laden letter trend or whatever. They always include the same ones because there were only a few, and they really want to make this into something that it's not. They really want to scare people, make them think that this viral thing is where leftists are now praising Osama bin Laden, blah, blah, blah. To be fair, in the beginning of the letter, Osama bin Laden explained that he was unhappy about the fact that the United States supported Palestine nonstop, no matter what. I'm sorry, they supported Israel nonstop, no matter what. And Israel was attacking Palestine. That's totally 100% fair. That is a fair criticism. But everything else in the letter was psychotic.
Shocking.
A little bit just confused, like I have entered into another timeline. What is this? And yeah, so go read it.
So I just read...
It's 4 people. It's the same 4 videos. That's one of them. This is another. And there are 2 more. They may show the other 2 that they always show. It's weird that they always show the exact same ones. It's just because it really wasn't a viral trend until they started talking about it. And even then, it wasn't a viral trend. It was a viral hate trend to talk shit about people who thought the letter was fascinating. I thought it was fascinating.
A letter to America. And I will never look at life the same. I will never look at this country the same. I will never... Please read it. And if you have read it, let me know if you are also going through an existential crisis in this very moment.
Well, I mean, people are discovering that America was to blame for a lot of absolutely awful stuff. Not that it justified an attack like Osama bin Laden did. And obviously, we've seen 1,000 reasons why Osama bin Laden was psychotic and wrong about nearly everything. But still, I mean, people thought that they hated us for our freedoms. That's what George Bush told us. He said to the American people, they hate us for our freedoms. They hate us because we can walk around without beekeeper outfits on, the burqas. They hate us because we can, drink alcohol or do whatever we want. In fairness, that's partly true, but he kind of left out the whole ravaging the societies and economies of Middle Eastern countries. He left that part out conveniently. These arms were insufferable. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, looking at the puzzle now, it was actually pretty straightforward and obvious, but oh my God, dude. This puzzle was absolutely awful. It drove me insane.
And actually, before you even read the letter, I did want to mention, in reading the letter, I could only think of this tweet that I saw the other day. Under settler colonialism, any kind of resistance is branded as terrorist because the only acceptable violence is violence by the occupier.
The way this letter is going viral right now is...
Yeah, this is another. I didn't see the other kid, the other dude, the one we saw just a second ago, but this is the third person that they always show when talking about this subject. Constant.
giving me the greatest sense of relief. If you're Muslim and you've lived in the U.S. since 9/11, you know more truth than the typical citizen. Now it's all...
Okay, this is a funny game. I see. I don't know if you saw this. He went to give her a high five, and she put her hands down. And that's because previously, with the last arms, she went to high five him, and he refused. That's kind of funny. I like that. Anyway, sorry.
The way this letter is going viral right now is giving me the greatest sense of relief. If you're Muslim and you've lived in the U.S. since 9/11, you know more truth than the typical citizen. Now it's all coming to light because of Palestine.
Dude, who is even talking right now? Who was interrupting this letter or this TikTok with their annoying protests or whatever?
You know more truth than the typical citizen. Now it's all coming to light because of Palestine.
Like, who is that?
Okay, so number one, if you're getting here's a clue. If you're getting your news from TikTok, you may not be getting the real news. Yet,
That's true. If you're getting your news from this, you're not getting the real news either.
This is what we're seeing, John. People talking about this letter. And this letter was, where he was talking about bin Laden was saying, because Americans he was referring back to the Palestinians and how it was their land and how they picked and choose parts of the letter. This is what's going on, and we're going to make all Americans pay because you pay taxes, and the taxes you pay enforce this on it. So therefore, it's...
That's true. He's accurate so far.
All your fault. John.
That's accurate, yes. He was correct on all of that stuff, actually, interestingly enough. I don't want to go in search of it, but like I said, I read the whole letter. If you want to see the whole thing, it's on my Fireside channel. Yeah, he was correct about all that. He's just ignoring all the stuff that he agreed with, fascinatingly, about homosexuality and all the other stuff that we read a minute ago.
TikTok, come on, man.
Man, Gene, why did you make me watch that? I feel dumber just watching the thing. I don't know why you do.
Oh, that's so funny. This guy is so clever. For the record, commentary shows should not be where you get your news. You should be getting your news from Reuters and AP News and other extremely reliable, trustworthy news sources. That's where I get all of my news. Trustworthy news sources. Watching my show, my show is a commentary show. You shouldn't be getting your news from me. Certainly not exclusively. But to be fair, I do get my news from reliable sources, so I always try to make 100% sure everything that I say is completely accurate. I don't always get it exactly right, but I try my hardest. These people, as a commentary show, the Flashpoint crew, they intentionally set out to deceive. They lie for a living. Can't help but fear for the safety of that Santa behind you after watching a video the other day. Yeah, that you're probably your fears are not misplaced. Kashmir likes pulling that thing down, and he actually put the Santa in front of Kylie's door the other day, just in the middle of the night. Grabbed the Santa, dropped him on the floor in front of her door. I don't know why. Also, real Christmas trees are out, or they will be soon. I can see the stands up outside, so I'm going to grab one as soon as it's available.
Man, Gene, why did you make me watch that? I feel dumber just watching the thing. I don't know why you do that to me.
Oh, that's so funny. I do love the jacket, to be fair, though. That jacket is on point.
This goes back to what I said a second ago. In post-colonial theory, in these Marxist ideologies, they redefine morality. Anything, if you are viewed as the oppressed in their worldview, anything you do against the oppressors is now considered moral.
No. Okay, I don't know who they is. Who's he talking about when he says they? Does he mean Gen Z? Does he talk about the left? Progressives? Who? Who's he talking about here? That is what he's referring to is an ends justify the means mentality, and it's wrong no matter who does it. Murder is wrong. Discriminating against a group of people, a group of civilians or whatever, is wrong. A demographic of people. It's straight up bad. And there's no excuse. There's no justifying that away. There's no end that could justify the means of discriminating against people, hating people, taking extremist action, running planes into buildings, or any of that stuff. Unfortunately, that's what I've built my channel off of for the past 8 years, talking about ends justify the means mindsets. You may not even realize that that's what it's been about, but if you go back and look at like everything that I've released, it's about people having this ends justify the means mentality. If you listen, you'll find that this guy and all of these other people are the kings of ends justify the means mentalities. That's what a cult is.
Anything you do against the oppressors is now considered moral. There are no static ideas of morality, and that's one of the things I wrote in my new book. I say,
oh, he's plugging his new book. Okay, of course.
It changes the way that flourishing is defined. So let me give you another example. If the hard left is correct, and if abortion is not actually murder, but abortion is a form of justice.
I'm sorry? Abortion is a form of justice? Hold on, I gotta write this one down. Nobody said abortion was a form of justice. Abortion is not a form of justice. It's a form of societal safety. It's a protection to make sure that we all survive and have the best lives, and we don't end up with people who don't want us, for example. Terminate the pregnancy before it's even a human being. When it's a clump of cells. When it's a blastocyst, 150 cells. That's not abortion. And by the way, these people believe it is. Plan B, Plan B, that the medicine you can buy at a pharmacy to prevent pregnancy, is like emergency contraception or whatever. They believe that's abortion, and it's wrong. For the record, Plan B works by, you have to take Plan B within 72 hours because that's roughly how long it takes for a fertilized egg to implant, to connect to the uterus, the uterine wall or whatever. If you take Plan B is simply just a very high dose of contraception. A very high dose of regular birth control medicine. If you take it, it basically induces a period which prevents the fertilized egg from connecting to the uterine wall, thus preventing pregnancy. And it's for things like your condom broke or you were attacked or some other thing like that. So anyways, that's what Plan B is, and it's nothing more than just inducing a pregnancy when there is a fertilized egg that's 150 cells. Microscopic practically, almost. And these people seem to believe even that is abortion. It's not a form of justice, it's societal protection, plain and simple. It's psychotic to me that these people seem to absolutely refuse to see things the way that they actually are. They insist on looking at things in like this psychotic ass backwards way.
Abortion is not actually murder, but abortion is a form of justice.
Abortion is not murder. It is simply getting rid of cells, nothing more. It's just cells. At a certain point, that's not the case. At a certain point, it's more than just cells. In my opinion, that's between 15 and 20 weeks. In the opinion of the Supreme Court for the past 50 years, it was 20 weeks, so I'll go with that one. Viability, when it can survive outside the mother. I can agree with that. But with these people, there's no nuance. That's really the issue here.
Well, then all of a sudden, making abortion free and all the way through, to the very end of pregnancy is a way to help women flourish as opposed to...
Wait. See what he's doing here? what we've been talking about, I just said that I don't think that abortions should happen all the way up to the end of pregnancy. I said I think it should be viability, where the Supreme Court placed it in under Roe v. Wade and Casey. This guy twists that, being in favor of abortion up to 20 weeks and beyond that is serious need, like life of the mother stuff. He twists that into Democrats are in favor of it all the way up to like the day of the birth, like 39 weeks and 6 days into the pregnancy, you get an abortion. They want to push it that much further. They want to make it that much more ridiculous.
To the very end of pregnancy is a way to help women flourish, as opposed to what the Bible teaches, which is that
Well, the Bible teaches abortion is a good thing and you should be getting abortions. It's a mandate. And the reason it was a mandate and not just a suggestion in the Bible is because making sure that the paternal line was maintained was very important. They didn't have DNA tests back then. The only way you could be sure was if there was absolutely no doubt whatsoever. So if there was doubt, you get an abortion. You send your wife to the priest who whips up a concoction and gives it to her. She drinks it, and the baby is aborted if she cheated. I don't even know what's happening on screen. Anyway. I get he's going to completely contradict that, right?
A way to help women flourish, as opposed to what the Bible teaches, which is that every life is created in the image of God.
Yeah, when the life is actually a human being, it's created in the image of God. When it's a set of cells, look, I'm killing more cells right now by scratching my nose like this than I would be if I got an abortion, or, if somebody else got an abortion. Seriously, more cells. At a certain point, more cells are dying. And this guy believes that just doing that is killing a human being. By the way, I can use these cells to reproduce, too. I can use those cells to clone. So why is it that he has a problem with me getting an abortion, for example, but not doing this? Did somebody just pull this shit? What the hell is this? Volume Master? Some extension just imposed itself upon me. That pisses me off more than anybody can possibly imagine. All right, let's keep listening. That makes me want to remove Volume Master.
This is the exact same thing. If you are going against the people that are oppressing, and we have to just define this, who are the biggest oppressors of all?
Here we go. This is the honeybee in. This is what I was looking for.
It's Western civilization, America, Christianity, Judeo-Christian ethics, and they all have to go. I agree with Dinesh. It's not just that it's destroyed. They want to remake something, but they want to remake something built on this idea of equity. It's a utopian equity.
Wow, how wrong is that equity? Imagine building something on equity. Just disgusting, right?
Dream. But as we all know, there's no such thing as utopia. It is a lie. Every utopia ends in tyranny and dystopia.
Yeah, Lance, I'll give you a chance to.
Wow, you can't have a utopia, so just don't even bother trying, is what he said just now. Anybody else catch that? Don't try to make things better, because you'll make things worse. So just keep things bad, I guess. Jesus, dude.
Comment there. You mentioned before the show, we were talking a little bit about how they left significant parts out of that letter. Your comment?
I think they're talking about the Osama bin Laden letter still, right? That kids left parts out of the letter. I mean, they probably, honestly, like I said, 274 videos on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then by Thursday, there were like millions, thousands, at the very tens of thousands maybe. It went from 2 million views to 30 million views. So naturally, I would say they probably didn't read almost any of the letter. They read the first 2 paragraphs maybe, which talked about Palestine and showed, that Israel's been doing this exact thing, abusing and mistreating people like this for who knows how long, 70, 80 years. And they didn't make it beyond that. They didn't get down to the part that was actually really horrific about hating gay people, women being allowed to have jobs and all, not basing your laws off of Sharia law and so on and so forth. It's insane. Oh, not to mention the part that Osama bin Laden mentioned about how we are calling you to, what do we want from you, he said. What do we want from Americans? First thing that we're calling you to is Islam, the religion of unification of God, of freedom from associating partners, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, they just didn't make it that far in. The couple hundred people that agreed with it to any degree.
I never realized when I started presenting and teaching on 7 mountains of culture 20 years ago.
Oh, my God. 7 mountains of culture. Holy shit. I'm going to have to talk about this, aren't I? Okay. Let's talk about this real quick. In 1902, there's this document that appeared. It was called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, okay? And it was originally 27 or I think 27 different protocols. It was just like they were each published in newspapers in Tsarist Russia before World War I. They were like this long. And the claim was that these protocols were found on a dead Jewish soldier, and they were originally from the elders of the Jewish community, and they were the Jewish plan for world domination. That's obviously completely made up. It was not found on a dead Jewish soldier. It was fabricated almost certainly by the Okhrana, which was the predecessor to the KGB. In 1905, it was published all of them were published in a book called The Protocols of the Meetings of the Learned Elders of Zion. That was the name of the book originally. So between 1902 and 1905, they were published in newspapers, and then they were compiled into a book. Now, I have a copy of that book, as a matter of fact. You can find this book on the FBI website because throughout the generations, this book has been reproduced over and over and over again. Hitler mentioned it in his book Mein Kampf. Henry Ford, the guy that invented vehicles, he also made copies of this and mailed them out. He used a printing press to mass produce these. And in the 1970s, there was another person that was printing these out and mailing them to people around the United States. And that's when this copy was mailed in to the FBI and said, hey, somebody is printing these out and sending them out to people if you wanted to look into this. Of course, it's not illegal to own one or print it out or whatever. It's just anti-Jewish propaganda. So what is it exactly? Quick interjection, this won't take long. I just want to say, if you want to support my channel, the best way you can do it is by watching this video to the end, or at least watching a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. YouTube's recommendation algorithm works off of watch time. You can also subscribe to the channel, like the video, and check out my Patreon. Link is in the description for that. All right, back to the video. It's anti-Jewish propaganda that dates back thousands of years. Every accusation you'll find against the Jewish community is in this. It's very obviously not written by Jewish people. Let me just show you what I mean. This is Protocol 2. Let me just give this a read, see if any of this sounds familiar to you, okay? We must see to that wars be brought on economic grounds, putting the nations at the mercy of our international agenda, when our international rights of gold will wipe out all national rights. Our employees chosen from the Goyim cattle, Goyim being a derogatory term for non-Jews, kind of like Gentile, except it's like a slur. That's how it's phrased, basically, in this document. Our employees chosen from the Goyim cattle must be of a type that submit to blind and servile obedience to our specialists and advisors who've been trained from childhood to rule the affairs of the world. These are not empty words. Think of the successes we arranged for Darwinism, Marxism, Nietzscheism, etc. To us, the Jews, really, to us, the Jews, because we didn't know it was Jews before, so they wanted to make sure that we knew that this is Jews that wrote this, so they put that in there. To us, Jews, this is a joke. Seriously, who actually bought this? Who really believed any of this nonsense? What we're reading here with the to us, comma, Jews, comma, this is called exposition. If you've never heard of exposition, I'll have this cute redhead explain it for me. Here's this cute redhead explaining exposition. Check this out.
My favourite part of a film is exposition, which is when one character tells another character something that both of them already know.
Gentlemen, you already know that the Raven has struck again. Now, I don't need to remind you that we are cops.
The Raven's a myth. Michael, how long have we known each other? 10 years?
Joey, you're my brother. Longer than 10 years.
Sorry, do I have to call Mom to establish that you and I are siblings?
Don't call Mom.
I'm calling Mom. Hold on.
Hello, Mom?
Mikey, it's me, your elderly and/or Jewish mother.
Yeah,
just calling to
Mom.
say that you're still single and your career's going nowhere.
Mom, listen to me, will you? If I don't catch the Raven, they're gonna close the precinct.
Close the precinct? But it's Christmas.
You think I don't know that? Ghost of a child who died on my first case?
And that's how exposition works. But of course, you already knew that. There's a wall there.
This guy is fantastic. By the way, that's the title of the video. Cute Redhead Explains How Movies Work. And it's on the Alistair Beckett King YouTube channel, I think. Anyways, even at the end, this subtle joke here.
You already knew that. There's a wall there.
Even that was just an absolutely on-point joke. In film, there's something called breaking the fourth wall, where the fourth wall is the viewer that's watching. You're breaking the wall there because you're talking to the viewer. When somebody in film talks to the viewer, you're breaking the fourth wall. And he walks right into this wall and says, oh, there's a wall here, after breaking the fourth wall. Everything about this video is on point. Anyway, the point is, back to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Think of the successes we've arranged for Darwinism, Marxism, Nietzscheism, etc. To us, Jews, comma, it is plain what a destructively blah, blah, blah. Really? The exposition is painfully obvious in this. Anyways, it is plain what a destructively disintegrating force these directives have had upon the minds of the Goyim cattle, that being Darwinism and Marxism and Nietzscheism. Sounding familiar, right? All this stuff about Marxism, just about every conspiracy theory you can think of has come out of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And again, there are somewhere in the range of 27, I think, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23. They're all out of order. Yeah, I think there are 27 of them. And it's a whole book. Anyways, the belief that Jews drink blood, or adrenochrome, the idea that evil people are coming to take kids and suck their blood out of their arms like they're sticking a straw in a Capri Sun. That came from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
The White Hats tainted the elites' adrenochrome supply with the coronavirus, and that's why so many members of the elites are getting the coronavirus, if indeed they do have the coronavirus. So adrenochrome is a drug that the elites love. It comes from children. The drug is extracted from the pituitary gland of tortured children.
That was originally an anti-Jewish conspiracy theory called blood libel. QAnon's beliefs, pretty much all of them, came out of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. QAnon, whether they realize it or not, is a rebranded Nazi death cult. Seriously. They may not even know. Cancel culture came out of this. Fear of Marxism and communism and Darwinism, all of it came out of this. Fascinatingly, a reporter discovered that this set of protocols, this book, basically, 80% of it was plagiarized from a French satire book written in 1854. 80% came out of this French satire book that wasn't even about Jews. The idea that Jews control the big banks and the media and everything, something that was actually echoed in Osama bin Laden's letter to America, that's from Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Cancel culture, blood libel about people eating babies or drinking children's blood or whatever, that's from Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Marxism, Darwinism, communism being evil and being used to destroy society, Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Great replacement conspiracy where people are trying to bring in immigrants from other countries to outweigh votes. You know, like Donald Trump has claimed in the past, or Tucker Carlson, the Democrats are bussing in Mexicans to vote in our elections, completely made up from the protocols of the Elders of Zion.
I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. But they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually. Let's just say it. That's true. The power that I have as an American, guaranteed at birth, is one man, one vote, and they're diluting it. No, they're not allowed to do that. Why are we putting up with this?
Even though a lot of people like Tucker want you to believe that all immigrants are very left-wing, the truth is that Cubans and Venezuelans are not very left-wing. There are lots of Asian immigrants that are not left-wing. There are many Eastern European immigrants that are not left-wing. Anyway, let's imagine that naturalized immigrants by a 60-40 margin vote for Democrats. That means that for every 500,000 immigrants that become citizens, that's only a 100,000 vote margin for Democrats. When you compare that to population growth, when you compare that to people who move between states, it's a drop in the bucket when you talk about bringing people in, having them wait the 5 years before they can request citizenship, and then the additional period to go through that process. If this is how Democrats are trying to win, it's a very stupid strategy.
The idea that they're trying to enslave the world, the Great Reset conspiracy, like all of this stuff is from protocols. It's all made up nonsense. So I said that it was the Jews' plan for world domination. Let me show you what the actual outlined plan was in this fabricated, plagiarized, fake book about Jews. By the way, source of almost all anti-Semitism over the past 1,000 years, or at least it's all compiled into one source. There's a thing called the Seven Mountains Mandate. Lance Wallnau explains it for us pretty clearly. Just listen to Lance's breakdown of what Seven Mountains dominionism is. This is evangelicals' plan to take over the United States and take it from the hands of just normal people that aren't extremist nutcases. This plan was outlined in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
3% of the population, roughly 3 to 4% of the population, are radical leftist elites. 30% of the population are evangelical born-again Christians that are inclined to go towards Pentecostal language. I mean, we're really out there. 30% against 3%, but they neutralize the church because they're also in religion. They changed the definition of marriage, so they've taken over family. They've totally taken over academia, so the education institutions are teaching leftist theology.
He's listing the 7 mountains, the 7 pillars of society: education, military, economy, government, so on and so forth. And his whole idea, also the idea of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, was to take control of those areas. Just get your 3% of the people to the top of these areas of society, and you can control everybody else.
They're controlling government right now. They've taken over legacy media, Hollywood, entertainment, and arts.
I mean, who is they in this scenario? Certainly left-wing or left-leaning Jews, right? I mean, who controls Hollywood? It's the Jews, right? That's constantly. That's one of the biggest conspiracy theories that's stuck. Hollywood and entertainment and media and everything is all controlled by the Jews. He is now saying that it's simply people to the left of hunting the homeless for sport, I guess. But at its core, this entire thing is an anti-Semitic conspiracy.
And now they've got Wall Street. This is 3%. 30% of the population is Christian. How is it that 30% are dominated by 3%? They have a worldview for bringing their kingdom here now. We're told to pray thy kingdom come, but we put it off to the second coming.
Jesus was supposed to have taken control and become the king. You're not supposed to impose your kingdom on society, but okay, whatever.
We put it off. They are organized.
Who is they? Nobody is organized to take this stuff over. This is psychotic. It's a full-blown conspiracy theory trying to whip people into a blood frenzy and freak them out to the point that they are willing to run for office and try to take control of these 7 areas of society.
And we are not. So, God says, I'm going to send you a revival. And we're praying for revival. And as we pray for revival, we think, well, watch what happens. That 30 will become 50%. It doesn't matter, because the guards in the prison control what goes on with the inmates. You could have 75%. And if they control those high places, you still are in suppression, because that's the story of history. So it's not just in having more. We certainly want souls. In eternity, that's the most important thing. And this is, Mario, where a lot of people get confused. Is it the kingdom more important? Isn't Jesus more important? Isn't souls more important? Of course, this isn't either or. It's both and. We want souls and we want nations. Jesus was promised nations for his inheritance, not just churches.
So anyways, that's the plan for world domination. Evangelical Christians stole this from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, this anti-Semitic conspiracy theory document published in 1905, originally 1902 to 1905, in Tsarist Russia. And you know what else is fascinating? The Middle East absolutely hates Israel. Oh my God, they hate them. Now, there's an explanation for why a lot of Middle Eastern countries don't like Israel, and the explanation is because they've horrifically oppressed and committed genocide on a lot of people in Palestine. But you know what? The Middle East actually hated Israel before Israel, or they hated Jews before Israel even existed as a country. Came into existence about 1947, 1948. But all through the 1900s, specifically during Stalin's reign, Stalin was having the KGB, the USSR's secret police, like the CIA kind of. He was having them pass out copies of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion to all of the countries in the Middle East: Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, Palestine, so on and so forth. He's passing them out all over the place for people to read. That's why, that was the heart of the anti-Semitism in the Middle East. And it just grew larger and larger and larger from there. So that should give you a little bit of context for what the Protocols of the Elders of Zion is and how evangelicals are rebranding it to be useful to them. That should provide a little bit of context. I know that took a little while, but that should provide context for what Lance Wallnau is saying here. After listening to him explain his plan for world domination, continue listening to what he says here.
So here's what's really an awakening for me. I never realized when I started presenting and teaching on 7 mountains of culture 20 years ago.
What I wonder is, did this guy read the Protocols of the Elders of Zion and create the 7 mountains mandate himself, or did somebody else do it, or what? Like, who sat down and read this document? Because they repeat things word for word out of protocols. I mean, it's uncanny how similar the things are. It's too much for coincidence. They copied it straight out of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Somebody did. The evangelical 7 mountains dominionism belief system is too close to be a coincidence.
I really thought media, arts, entertainment, and government were the ones to watch. I can't believe how dumb I was not to realize that education was the one you have to watch, because you raise your leaders, as Dinesh was saying. You know, you've got your future editors and Wall Street HR guys and gals coming out of these
and non-binary pals
woke universities. Now, here's the deal. They teach kids what to think. They don't teach them how to think.
Yeah, and how to think is thinking from a biblical perspective, thinking about Jesus, right? That's what he wants. That's what this guy wants to see. It's absolutely insane. I mean, he's talking about a plan straight out of an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory document that's existed for 150 years. I don't know. If this isn't insane, I don't know what is. It's crazy.
So if they're that vulnerable that one edited letter on TikTok can deconstruct your whole understanding of history and Western civilization. You never learned it in the first place.
Okay, it's not one edited letter. These kids just read, I mean, what was it, like 270 people. These kids just read Protocols of the... I'm sorry, God. These kids just read Osama bin Laden's letter for the first time and found that it was talking a lot about Palestine and Israel and how absolutely horribly Israel has treated people. I mean, they didn't go down further, apparently, but all of that's true. And it wasn't edited, it was factual. Well, at least the first portion was. Osama bin Laden was a propagandist, though, so I can't stress enough that the letter was propaganda. But it was also just a psychotic stream of consciousness, really no different than Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf was psychotic and insane. There was nothing to learn from Mein Kampf. Like, I thought about reading it. The whole book, it's long, apparently. It means my struggle. I understand it's just like a big, long, like, it's obviously written by someone who is very mentally ill and didn't know how to string his thoughts together in a coherent way, and it was just like hate-filled garbage. So I decided it's not even worth the time, you know.
So if they're that vulnerable, that one edited letter on TikTok can deconstruct your whole understanding of history and Western civilization, you never learned it in the first place.
Well, people are vulnerable to propaganda. That's just the fact of the matter, and there really is not much that you can do to fix that. Just try to prepare people for propagandistic framing and lies and stuff. But even that, you know, you're going to pick off a percentage of people. That's just going to happen, unfortunately.
If Christianity can be deconstructed by somebody, that you're listening to on TikTok, you never had a very thorough foundation to begin with. So
no, I had a thorough foundation. Now, it wasn't broken down for me on TikTok, but it was one singular statement that was made to me that broke it all for me. It shattered it. So it might as well have been a TikTok video. Hell, it could have been a 15-second TikTok video that pulled me out of the whole thing, out of all of this, out of Jehovah's Witnesses, effectively. Could have been. The thing that pulled me out of Christianity originally, out of Jehovah's Witnesses specifically, was somebody telling me, it was my brother-in-law at the time, he said, do you know that Joseph Rutherford, the president of the Watchtower Society for a long time, one of the leaders, the second leader, basically, of Jehovah's Witnesses for a while, do you know he had a mansion built for himself in the 1930s, middle of the Great Depression? Deeded it to Bible characters, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and stuff, and just lived in it to keep it warm for them. That was the thing that broke it all open for me. I know it was just a little thing, but when I realized that they were scam artists, it kind of shattered the rest of it, because Jehovah's Witnesses had spent the previous, 20 years or something, convincing or explaining to me how everybody else, every other religion was incorrect. And when I realized they were incorrect as well, that's all it took. I threw it all out. I realized, everybody is full of shit. They're all scam artists. They're all trying to take advantage of people. So anyways, it might as well have been a short TikTok. It doesn't have to be long. All you have to do is realize how completely full of it people are.
That you're listening to on TikTok, you never had a very thorough foundation to begin with. So I really think we got to stop and realize that when we look at a year that's political and all the issues that will be decided, if we don't fundamentally reform the education and university system in America, we are setting up our own destruction, because it's a propaganda factory that makes them vulnerable to manipulation like this.
Yeah, without a doubt.
What is he saying? Is he saying TikTok is a propaganda factory and that we need to get rid of it? Am I understanding what he said?
In America, we are setting up our own destruction, because it's a propaganda factory that makes them vulnerable to manipulation like this.
Yeah, without a doubt. In fact, Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, it sounded like he was saying we should be getting rid of like TikTok and stuff.
Makes them vulnerable to manipulation like this.
Yeah, without a doubt. In fact, Charlie Kirk posted this. Why is everyone shocked a generation taught to hate America would embrace Osama bin Laden?
Okay, God, Charlie Kirk is the absolute worst, dude. He's insufferable. I cannot stand listening to him drone on and on about all of his garbage, but it's hard to beat Charlie Kirk in his propaganda efforts. But no one was taught to hate America. Complete nonsense.
He's right. He's right. Absolutely.
No, he isn't right.
Exactly what you're saying there, Lance. All right. I need to move along here. We got Dinesh D'Souza here because I want to talk about this new film, Police State. If you haven't heard about it, watch this.
Oh, my God. Now they're shouting out Dinesh D'Souza's new film. This guy, if you don't know him, is the same guy that created the movie 2000 Mules. And it made a huge splash in right-wing circles. It was very, very influential. Anyway, okay, let's keep listening to these people.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
That's true, yes.
Chief Division Counsel and DOJ have approved a no-knock breach. We want the subject to be on display.
I'm sorry, wait a minute. What are we looking at? This is a trailer for Dinesh D'Souza's new movie, but what is happening in this right now? The FBI shows up to somebody's house?
Breach.
Just step back and watch.
Very foundations of our republic.
So it's a flashbang grenade. So basically, they throw those into houses when they're going to raid them, I think. So everybody is blinded. They can't see anything, right?
Chief Division Counsel and DOJ have approved a no-knock breach. We want the subject to be on display.
They've approved a no-knock. So they're portraying people being raided, right? Their homes are being raided, like MAGA Republicans, MAGA extremists are being raided just because of their beliefs, I guess, under Joe Biden's America.
The walk of shame, full visual impact. Any questions?
Are we becoming a police state?
No, we're not.
Government told American citizens they couldn't go to church on Sunday.
Oh my God, dude. See, this is how propaganda works right here. This is what I'm talking about. That is not what happened, all right? You were perfectly free to show up to church if your pastor held services in an open area that wasn't dangerous for people to gather in, like outside in the parking lot. Get a loudspeaker, get a little canopy to protect people from the sun, and hold services outside. There was nothing wrong with that. Space the chairs out 6 feet. Alternatively, inside, and wear masks. Take temperatures at the door. That was a choice. They didn't want to do that. I'm talking far-right extremists. They didn't want to do any of that. What did they do? Ignored it completely. They spaced the chairs even closer. They banned masks on their campuses, like Greg Locke banned masks. Not only did he just not ask people to wear masks, he straight up banned them.
We got 2 banners coming this week that says our campus is a mask-free church. Either kindly remove them or sit in your car. You can sit in your car. If you come to our church and you try to protest what I said by wearing a mask, we will escort you to the door.
What about people who have cancer? What about people who are genuinely sick? What about people with COVID? He's trying to spread it. Apparently, they were intentionally acting as super spreaders. These pastors were.
We're not playing. We're a place of faith, not a place of fear.
Is that why you left your guns at home then? Because you're not a place of fear? Get rid of the masks, get rid of the guns, right? Anyway, the point is, people were perfectly free to do whatever they wanted. Show up and listen to a sermon outside. Space the chairs out. Wear masks. They didn't want to do that. They banned masks. They spaced them closer. and they refused to hold services outside. It was absolutely absurd. These people are absurd human beings.
Ever seen anything?
For the record, nobody was banned from listening to a church service. You could log in through Zoom or any of the other options. They didn't want to do any of that. They wanted to make it more dangerous for people.
Government told American citizens they couldn't go to church on Sunday.
I've never seen anything like it. It may be the Russia other people grew up in, but not my America.
FBI warrant, come to the door now!
There's a heavy banging at my door. Open up! It's 15 marked units on my property. I got SWAT in the back of my house.
They took a battering ram
Dude, what are they talking about right now?
to my door.
6 a.m. I hear boom, 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 and hear about 6 to 8 military-style soldiers, with the tallest one of them pointing an automatic rifle at my head.
I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, they're framing it up as though people were being attacked for holding church services. That's not what happened. You know what happened, actually? I know exactly what happened. People who violated the essential services thing where you had to hold services outside or on Zoom or space the chairs out or whatever. People who refused to do those things, one pastor faced consequences for that. All of the others did whatever they wanted. It was completely ignored and forgotten about. This pastor was the loudest and most obnoxious, and he even went on Alex Jones to talk about how persecuted he was. Name is Tony Spell. I think he's in Louisiana, maybe? I don't remember. Okay, this is Tony Spell, if you don't know him. This is mid-January 2022.
There ought to be anger that rises up in us whenever the Secretary of Transportation,
Pete Buttigieg, he's gay,
who is the forerunner to be the President of the United States in
no, he isn't.
2024.
No, Pete Buttigieg is not even on the list.
For the Democratic Party, came off of a 2-month maternal leave.
No, paternity leave. Paternity. Does he even know what that word means, paternity?
It was not a woman, but it was a man that is married to a man. There ought to be anger inside of everybody here today that says something's wrong with our world. Something is wrong with people that can stand idly by and accept this as normal.
So anyway, yeah, that's Tony Spell, if you were wondering. He also tried to run down a protester who was protesting the fact that his church was open. Dude's standing at his church holding a sign saying that he's, getting people killed, basically, or something like that.
He just pulled as far over under the shoulder as he could without hitting me. He was maybe 6 inches away. So, and that happened nearly instantaneously. It was just suddenly there's a guy driving 45 miles an hour a few inches from you. I was just shocked and then more shocked. Like, at first I just assumed he was actually trying to turn around his bus. He kept hammering his horn the whole time until he turned around in his driveway.
This is another. So he did this twice to this guy, at least, maybe 3 times. I don't remember. He was in a bus and he had no idea where the guy was. He's just backing the bus up and hoping he hit him.
Then he stopped and started backing up at me. By the time it was actually close enough to hit me, I was just kind of in shock.
Oh my God, dude. Tony Spell had no idea where this guy was. He very easily could have killed him.
I don't think the pastor could see me anymore, so I don't think it was necessarily intent to not hit me as much as it might have been luck. When the bus stopped...
Yeah, it was completely luck.
This is about the time I fully realized what's going on. I don't like being attacked. I don't think anyone does. I'm exercising the same right that he's trying to say. He's going with his First Amendment rights to assemble, and I have my First Amendment rights to protest.
So, yeah, anyway, that's Tony Spell. And for doing that, I don't remember what he got charged with. Attempted murder? No, that wasn't it. I don't remember what it was. But anyway, he ended up getting arrested for attacking the protester multiple times like that on camera. I'm actually going to speed this up, do playback speed too. So he's walking, got his Bible in hand. He sees the cops, walks the other direction. Whoop, trying to get away from him. Benny Hill music should be playing. Anyway, he gets arrested. They take his Bible, they give it to the other guy, and he wanted to make a big show of everything, of course. And then he looks at the camera. Do you see that? He looked at the camera. This is a joke, dude. He knew what he was doing. And then he did this whole big tour around the country claiming that he was being persecuted for being a Christian. Just a joke.
We have not complied in 18 months, nor will we comply with the next round of shutdowns, mask mandates, vaccine mandates.
There were no vaccine mandates. There was a mandate to space the chairs out 6 feet, check temperatures at the door, and wear masks if you're inside. Or hold services outside. Or hold services on Zoom. He didn't do any of those things. Anyways, yeah, that's the most visible case. He was arrested for trying to run over a protester.
About 6 to 8 military-style soldiers, with the tallest one of them pointing an automatic rifle at my head.
FBI, we have an arrest warrant!
I don't even know what they're portraying here. This is not I followed these cases really, really closely. I don't remember this ever happening to anybody. Tony Spell was arrested, and you guys saw that. That wasn't a big deal. That was just him being arrested, and that's it. And he got out the next day, so.
Shock you out of sleep, drag you out of your house half clothed, refuse to give you a warrant, ransack your house.
Now I'm facing 15 years in federal prison
for doing nothing other than exercising my right to free speech.
No, that's not what happened. Nobody faced 15 years in prison for attending a church service. It's completely made up. I mean, is this just supposed to be is it quote unquote based on a true story, i.e. completely made up? Is that what they're trying to communicate? I'm not even sure.
Prison
for doing nothing other than exercising my right to free speech.
I had no reason to be attacked.
I hope that you remember Matt's name and the role you played in killing him.
Wait, what was that? What did it say?
That you remember Matt's name and the
Capitol writer Matthew Perna faces 20 years. Oh, they're complaining about... Okay, so I thought that they were talking about being locked up in jail for attending a church service. That's not what they were doing. They're complaining about people being charged with a crime for participating in the insurrection on January 6th. Okay. God, this is insane propaganda, seriously. I mean, you're seeing how they're framing this up as them just being persecuted when it was actually them doing the illegal acts, right?
The role you played in killing him.
How did we give the state this kind of power?
9/11 changed everything.
We're going to expand the Bureau from law enforcement to domestic intelligence.
Okay, this is what I agree with largely. The Patriot Act was a bad thing. I do not like it at all. But they're framing it up like the FBI is evil because they're chasing down terrorists, and these people happen to be terrorists. The January 6 people, Dinesh D'Souza, and anybody. He's supporting terrorists. Look, this isn't really happening on the left right now. I mean, I understand there have been left-wing eco-terrorists. For example, the Unabomber did what he did for left-wing reasons. We were destroying the planet and stuff, and that was all over his manifesto. I denounce that. See how simple that is? Denounce evil things. Denounce terrorism. Boom. Just like that. That's all they have to do. They're not denouncing terrorism. They are, Dinesh D'Souza and the people who are producing this film, this trailer, is endorsing terrorism and framing terrorists up as the innocent, persecuted people. Insane.
Legal shackles are now off.
It used to be Islamic terrorism. That threat has kind of dissipated.
Our focus is shifting.
They're moving to domestic extremism. It really paints anybody who's right of center.
What we need...
No, it doesn't paint people right of center as a domestic terrorist. It paints domestic terrorists as domestic terrorists. And if you can't see that what's happening right now is domestic terrorism on the far right, you're probably one of those domestic terrorists.
As a person to look at, and then we go find out what crime you did.
If you're a pro-life, pro-family Catholic, they define you as radical. The demand...
No, are you kidding me? Pro-life, pro-family Catholic. Joe Biden is a pro-life, pro-family Catholic. Of course, Biden doesn't think that public policy should force other people to follow his belief system or whatever. He doesn't think that others should be forced to do what he believes. So he is in favor of people's rights to choose, even though he would never choose abortion. But yeah, this is just completely fabricated. This is just fabricated persecution porn, if you will.
If you're a pro-life, pro-family Catholic, they define you as radical.
The demand for domestic terrorism vastly outstrips the supply.
When the demand for domestic terrorism? I don't understand what that even means.
Demand for domestic terrorism vastly outstrips the supply.
When candidate Trump came down the escalators, the government had a meltdown.
We are going to drain the swamp.
We'll see about that.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
The Patriot Act and FISA
Dude, I have no idea what they're talking about here.
were used against Donald Trump.
Google literally rewrote their news algorithm based upon what Trump was doing so that they could get this guy.
Yeah, all of this is made up. This is completely fabricated. What they said a second ago, listen to this one more time. Hang on.
Intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
The Patriot Act and FISA were used against Donald Trump.
The Patriot Act and FISA were used against him? No. This is the claim that Donald Trump was being monitored by the FBI. What really happened was during the 2016 election, the FBI was doing what they always do, which is monitoring known spy networks and stuff like that. They were monitoring Russian spy networks that they knew were operating in the United States. And bizarrely, people from Donald Trump's campaign, Donald Trump's children, Eric and Don Jr. and others, were calling these known Russian spies. And it's like, why is a presidential candidate talking to known Russian spies, not just once, but like a number of times? So the FBI started an investigation into Donald Trump's campaign called Operation Crossfire Hurricane to figure out like why this was going on. And eventually the investigation was closed when Donald Trump became the president. Interesting timing, huh? That's what they're talking about, I assume.
Google literally rewrote their news algorithm based upon what Trump was doing so that they could get this guy.
Completely made up.
You just take out the word Russiagate and you put in COVID origins. You take out COVID origins and you put in Hunter Biden's laptop. You take that out and you put in January 6th. It's the replicated.
Oh, this is Kash Patel. He's a QAnoner, and he's an extremely influential figure in QAnon. And he was also the Secretary of Defense or something. He ran the Pentagon, I believe. He was extremely high up in the military.
Play from the deep state and their partners in the media.
They're not just deplatforming you. They are trying to throw people in prison.
If they're coming for me, they're coming for you.
Hands on your head!
These are...
Well, I mean, yeah, if you are a domestic terrorist, sure, absolutely. Most definitely.
They're anti-government.
We have freedom of religion and freedom of speech!
Violent extremists. And
I mean, this is all, like... yeah, this church just happened to have, like, high-quality cameras set up in the church from multiple angles, and all of the cops knew not to look at the cameras when they came in, right? I mean, this is all staged. It's fake. None of this happened. Get help, people.
We have freedom of religion and freedom of speech!
Violent extremists, and they must be dealt with. We can do anything we want.
Are you next? Yeah, you are next. If you are a domestic terrorist, I would like to think, I hope.
Police State. Exclusively in theaters, October 23rd and 25th.
God, that's crazy. Police State. Insane, dude.
Tickets sold only on policestatefilm.net.
All right, Police State, Dinesh, the film is, a few years ago, I mean like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we would have thought, oh, it's Hollywood kind of going kind of crazy. Yet what you covered in this film is exactly, we know all of these things to be happening here.
No, they're not. I just talked about all of the examples of this stuff happening to any degree, in any way, or whatever. This is not happening. Completely made up, all of it. These people just straight up live in a fantasy land, dude, where they are like victims 24/7. It's nuts.
Now, ever since COVID, does it all go back to the Patriot Act? Is that where we went off the rails?
Dude, I love that these people are like talking smack about the Patriot Act now. This fascinates me because these were the people that were in favor of the Patriot Act originally. These people wanted it. They pushed it through. They pretended nothing was happening because it meant that they could monitor and jail Muslims at will, and they did. There are Muslims that are to this day in jail right now. Florence Supermax, FDX Supermax, that didn't deserve it. That the FBI set up to do this stuff. I think it's called the Dixon 5. In my opinion, it was just wrong. The way that it all happened was wrong. Anyways, point is, these people were these people were all in favor of the Patriot Act until 5 minutes ago.
Well, it is true that some of it historically goes back to 9/11 and the fear in people after 9/11. Fear is often
the fear that these people used against others, the fear that they instilled in others to convince them that some nefarious plot was happening or whatever. This is insane.
Way to get people to surrender liberties that they wouldn't otherwise give up. But it wasn't just 9/11. Then you fast forward to COVID, you fast forward to January 6th. So there were various pretexts for moving the police state forward, but the direction is the same. I mean, you're quite right that I could not have made a film like this, 5, not even 3 years ago. People would think I'm doing the film about like North Korea, China, one of the other classic police states. But if you look at the defining features of police states, what do they have in common? They have mass surveillance of citizens. They have censorship. They have ideological indoctrination in schools and the media, propaganda.
Yeah, okay. I'm agreeing I'm agreeing with all that so far, I think. Dinesh D'Souza, though, is convinced that there's a police state in favor of Democrats and against Republicans right now in the United States. This is Fantasyland shit right here.
Propaganda. They tend to be one-party states. They try to lock up the leader of the opposition party. They criminalize dissent. They suppress religious liberty.
These people being what they believe to be the persecuted minority that they are absolutely obsessed with the idea that they are the ones that this is happening to, that they're the victims here, that Joe Biden is after them. This is just insane.
They have political prisoners. So kind of go down that checklist and ask which of those features do we now see in America? And the shocking answer is
literally none of those things.
All of them.
Yeah, it's staggering. It's staggering. As I was watching even the trailer there, I was comparing that to actual news stories that we know have happened.
Well, lay them on me then. Tell me what they are. If you believe that pastors are going to jail simply for holding church service, or church attendees are going to jail for attending, show me the articles. Lay them on me. They don't exist.
What was the most surprising thing you discovered on your path of making this film?
Well, I wanted to have two kinds of people in the film. One is whistleblowers, informants, people who know the origin, but also the architecture of the police state. How is it put together? I think most Americans don't have a good understanding of that. How does it work? Who's in charge?
That's interesting. It's fascinating to me that they're setting up like this question in the first place. How are these police states set up? Because there is no police state actually. And these people live in this fantasy land where they are the victims of a police state that does not actually exist. This is really interesting to me.
And then on the other side, I wanted to have a lot of ordinary people that are just going about their normal lives. They might be civically involved. In other words, I'm a mom. I'm concerned about what my children are learning. I'm a pro-life activist. And then, bam, they come face to face with the police state with what Orwell calls the boot stamping on the human face. And the reason I wanted to have a lot of ordinary people is I wanted to answer the guy who says, hey, Dinesh, I'm not Donald Trump, and I didn't go inside the Capitol on January 6th, and I pay my taxes, so I'm okay. I'm never going to have to worry about the weaponization of government or the FBI showing.
There you go. Exactly. I don't break the law flagrantly, so I don't have to worry about somebody coming after me to, arrest me. Yeah, there you go.
Up at my door, and my message to that guy is, you couldn't be more wrong.
Okay, well, when we see it, then you know what? When we see something like that happen, I will stand up with somebody who is being arrested for no reason or for trumped up reasons. I will stand with them. But so far, we haven't seen that the way that these people seem to believe that we have.
It doesn't really matter, does it, Lance? I'll bring you into the conversation here. You saw the trailer, police state, what Americans are dealing with. It really is brokering fear in a new way than we've ever seen before.
It's brokering fear. Is that what he said?
Americans are dealing with. It really is brokering fear in a new way than we've ever seen before.
Oh, dude, I love it. Yes, absolutely. The movie Dinesh is producing, or has produced and is about to release, definitely brokers fear in a way we haven't seen. Agreed.
Yeah, and it has a kind of a gritty intensity that 2,000 Mules didn't approach. I wanted to ask Dinesh, what does he anticipate the viewing audience on this to be? How many Americans will see this movie if it gets the kind of distribution of 2,000 Mules and maybe 20% more?
Well, 2,000 Mules was seen by a large number of people.
It actually was. 2,000 Mules was extremely popular in Trumpist nutcase circles, and I considered covering it on my channel, but I didn't. Yeah, not worth it. It's pointless. It was debunked by others, so I'll just leave it at that,
Would estimate 20, 25 million people. This film is a long way from there.
20, 25 million people. I don't know if that's true. That's pretty high. I'm extremely skeptical.
Would estimate 20, 25 million people. This film is a long way from there, but I think it will slowly get there. And I say that because it's a film that leaves people deeply shocked. I've stood in the theater, people are crying, they're hugging each other. It's very emotional. Right. This film is...
Yeah, it's called propaganda. Propaganda is commonly very emotional. That happens.
Far more cinematic than 2,000 Mules. You're quite right. 2,000 Mules, because it's focusing just on electronic surveillance, cell phone geo-tracking. There's a technical aspect to that film. But this is a film that not only has, clinically recreated FBI raids that I hired FBI agents to help me do those things so that the language, the weaponry, the whole thing would be so authentic that anyone watching from the FBI or the DHS, the Homeland Security Department, would be like, wow, that's exactly how that would have gone down.
Well, realism is good. I can appreciate realism, but unfortunately, there is nothing actually realistic about this situation because this never happened and is not going to happen. People aren't going to be arrested for attending church services in the U.S. It's just not happening.
Plus, I have data.
You know what? If it happens, I will eat my shoes on air, publicly, live. If people start getting arrested simply for holding church service and talking about God, I'll eat my shoes.
Security department would be like, wow, that's exactly how that would have gone down. Plus, I have dash cam footage, surveillance footage, so I'm able to actually take you inside a guy's apartment, and you can see the FBI, thugs coming up the steps, cutting out some tape to cover his camera so that nobody can record what's going on, pulling out a massive battering ram and coming in through his door.
The gall, yeah. Guess what? That's how people get arrested when they're domestic terrorists. How do you think other domestic terrorists are arrested? You think that they're just invited in calmly and nicely to have a nice, neat little chat, and when they find out that he's a Trump supporter, they just let him go? It's not how it works, man. He knows that. He's a propagandist.
And you're watching that from inside the apartment. So this is the kind of stuff you see in the film, and it's kind of mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing. And Lance, I mean, in this film, what he's referring to, that's actual footage. It isn't a dramatic recreation. I mean, it's...
No, it's all dramatic recreation. I don't, maybe he has some footage of one guy being arrested for being an insurrectionist on January 6th. By the way, not everybody on January 6th was an insurrectionist. Some of them were just rioters that were unwitting. They had no idea what was going on. They were being used cynically by people who did know what was going on, like the leaders of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and others. They knew what was happening, and they intentionally set out to manipulate people, take advantage of them, and scare the shit out of them, and convince them that they were being attacked, and blah, blah, blah. That's what the leaders of the movement did to them. The people who got charged with insurrection or sedition or whatever against the U.S., those people were sentenced to like 20 years or something like that. A long time. They were sentenced to a lot of time. And normal people who were just like involved in the riots or whatever, that were not actual full-blown insurrectionists, they only got like 3, 4, or 5 years. Like the QAnon shaman, he's out of jail now and going around and doing his tours around the country on these right-wing media networks and stuff. The Oath Keepers, the leader of the Oath Keepers, he'll be in there for, God, till he's like 70 or something. He's not getting out anytime soon.
The actual footage. What was surprising to me with the guy putting the tape over the peephole so you couldn't see who he was. It was good. John, wow. You hear what this film is. I mean, were you surprised at all this that what we're dealing with in America in this police state?
We don't live in a police state. These people are not victims. They are actually perpetrators. These people are actually guilty of crimes. Not the people on screen, I assume. The people that they're talking about that were arrested are guilty of crimes. They are such victims. Give me a break, dude.
I'll tell you what, let's just pretend that in 2019, I went into a coma and I just came out right now and I saw that. I would say that you people have lost your minds.
Yeah, because that's propaganda. That's how it's supposed to be portrayed.
Except I was there in 2020 and I could not believe how many people were fine with it. I can't believe how many churches said, yeah, we'll shut down forever.
See, they're conflating things. That first of all, the churches didn't say we'll shut down forever. And second, that's not what the movie purported to be about. It started out as though it was about that, and then it ended up being about January 6 rioters and insurrectionists, seditionists. My God, dude, the persecution complex on these people is wild.
I can't believe that even when pastors, there's lots of them, lots of Pentecostal pastors, as well as Pastor John MacArthur in California. He said, no, I'm opening up my church. We're gonna defy this unlawful, deal that's going on. I can't believe the amount of.
Dude, what is he talking? Unlawful deal? What?
He said, no, I'm opening up my church. We're gonna defy this unlawful, deal that's going on. I can't believe the amount of evangelical leaders that rebuked Pastor MacArthur and these other pastors.
Talking about John MacArthur, he was one of the biggest and most influential people to refuse to refuse to do online meetings, even space his chairs out 6 feet. Like, people weren't even asking him not to hold services. They were asking him to space his chairs out. And he said no. I actually have a video of this, and it was really hard to obtain. So these were really, really difficult to find, and despite a court order, he completely ignored a court order to space his chairs out, take temperatures at the door, have people wear masks, hold services outside, or hold them on Zoom. Any of those would be fine options. He refused. He said no. And despite the court order, he showed up anyways, and this happened.
We're having church.
By the way, people actually died as a result of what he did here.
It's actually hard to figure out exactly what the city is trying to do.
Get you to save lives.
With us.
Like, I could have told you that. You could have just asked.
To us, but we know they don't want us to do exactly what we're doing right now. And we're not meeting. We're not meeting because we want to be rebellious.
That's exactly why they're meeting.
Meeting because our Lord has commanded us to come together and worship him.
You can do that. Nobody is stopping you. You just had to hold services outside or take some basic precautions. He refused.
There was a court order that granted this church and this church alone the right to meet indoors. And
did you catch that? Indoors. Meet indoors. So no one was preventing him from meeting. You just had to do it in a parking lot, outside or something, anything. Take some precautions.
Powers of the city were not happy about that. They were going to be asking us to do two things, social distance and wear masks. We agreed, look, we'll comply for a few weeks. They asked that for 3 weeks. We're not wanting to be defiant. We will do what is
not wanting to be defiant, he says, we'll do what's necessary. Come on, man.
Reasonable. That was not enough for the city, so they went to the appellate court at the last minute on Saturday late and had that order removed.
So anyways, yeah, the point is that they pretended to be like these poor persecuted people. God, it's such a joke, man. Shortly before that or after that? Wait, this was on August 16th, 2020 when this video came out. Late August 2020. So I'm not sure if it was before or after. I think shortly after that. He comes out and says this. This one was really hard to obtain, this video. And it doesn't exist anymore. It's been removed from literally everything everywhere. If you want a copy of any video, any clip that I play, it can be accessed by going to owenmorgan.com/clips. Not selling you anything. It's 100% free. I just don't want these to be lost to time. If you go there, it links you to Dropbox, and you can download anything. It's ordered by date that I covered it.
I haven't made really any comments about COVID or the lockdown and whatever else is going on in what is called a pandemic.
In what is called a pandemic.
I don't want to offer myself as any kind of an expert, but a rather telling report came out this week, and for the first time, we heard the truth. The CDC...
So just think about when this released. Late February 2020 is when things started getting serious and everybody started, cracking down and wearing masks of their own free will. It wasn't like they were being told to do this or that or whatever. It was people were afraid. So they started wearing masks and being careful and staying home of their own free will. And so that was basically early March, pretty much, right? And this was 6 months after that, roughly. This guy comes out here and says this stuff. 6 months later, everybody was staying inside. PPP money had just been dispersed, stimulus packages, and unemployment was expanded as well. That's what was happening in this moment in time. Everybody was staying home and feared for their lives. You didn't know what was going on or anything at all. And he says this.
CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, which is the national organization, government organization, that is to report to us the truth about disease, said that, in truth, 6% of the deaths that have occurred can be directly attributable to COVID.
So everything that he says here is a lie, by the way. He twists this completely out of proportion and makes it seem like COVID was not as bad as it actually was, when we all know it was as bad as everybody thought it was. Even worse, maybe.
94% cannot. Of the 160,000 people that have died, 9,210 actually died from COVID. There is no pandemic.
What a wild thing to say. At that moment in history, there is no pandemic. Holy shit, dude. And like YouTube and a whole bunch of other platforms were so like disturbed and disgusted by what this guy said in that moment that they removed it from their platforms. They're like, we cannot, like, we're not putting this out. We're not hosting this. This is disgusting, man, for real. So yeah, that's John MacArthur. That's who they're talking about right now on this on Flashpoint. This guy. Absolutely disgusting stuff, man, for real. So let's continue listening to John Cooper just talk about how much he loves John MacArthur. I don't know how to say it any more politely.
Of evangelical leaders that rebuked Pastor MacArthur and these other pastors that I aforementioned, telling them that they are supposed to obey the state. It reminds me of what you read about with Dietrich Bonhoeffer in Germany in the 1940s.
He's comparing COVID to Hitler in Germany in the 1940s. Seriously. This is insane.
He's speaking out against Hitler on his radio show. He's a Christian, and he's trying to get these pastors to understand what's going to happen. And he just keeps getting rebuked by fellow Christian leaders, telling him to be quiet, keep it all about the gospel. This isn't what Jesus wants you to do.
No, that's accurate. Yes, that's absolutely true. Correct. These people are shameless, dude. For real. These people are shameless. They just lie for a living.
And I just think that sometimes I don't know why it's got to be that way. I truly believe that if the church in America would just rise up and act like the church, I think we would see all of this turn back around. I think that America would once again love freedom. We'd learn how to love our neighbor again. But I tell you what, we've got to wake up. The church has got to regain its Holy Spirit power and its moral confidence.
Dinesh, what are you hoping to gain? What do you want to see happen in America with this film?
Well, the film is being blocked and suppressed in various kinds of ways. We have had sort of cyber attacks on our website. Amazon and Walmart won't sell our DVDs. If you let me say.
Well, cyber attacks on your website. Yeah, welcome to the club, bro. I get cyber attacks on my website all the time. This is just part of owning a website. Like, this happens to everybody. And he's acting like some persecuted poor guy that everybody hates because of this. And yeah, guess what? It's a free market. I thought this dude loved capitalism. What happened to all that? Amazon is not obligated to host your propagandistic garbage.
PoliceStateFilm.net is kind of the one-stop shop to watch this movie. So if you go to PoliceStateFilm.net, you can stream it you have your choice.
All right, now they're shouting out where you can find all this stuff. Anyway, hey, maybe we'll cover it. Maybe I'll cover it on my channel. You know what? I'm going to write this down. Police State Film. It's hard to cover movies because they're so, there's a lot of copyright stuff involved. Police State Film. We'll see if maybe we can cover it on my channel. But anyway, that's insane. That's insane. Let me know what you think about this. I guess this is about the end where they're just shouting their stuff out now. Yep, just shouting out all of his stuff. Just terrible. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. This is just cringy garbage.